Chapter 935. Facing everyone's shocked expressions and gazes, Chao Zhengming did not feel that there was anything wrong with what he said. At that moment, he was as proud as a primary school student giving a speech on Children's Day. He looked at the old man in the middle with a faint smile. There's no special reason. Ouyang Tianxing visited me personally before. He can come and go as he pleases in the heavily guarded compound. I'm afraid of death. The human skin masks found in the Shadow Alliance's base were made with my help. I was Ouyang Tianxing's highest-level informant from the beginning. My father is also well aware of this matter. There's still the slow-acting poison antidote that Ouyang Tianxing gave me in my home, but there's not much left. I don't have much time to live anyway. I decided to kill Chen Guang for 2 reasons. First, to vent my anger. Second, because he was unwilling to forgive me. There's no special reason. I've done similar things many times in the past. Alright, I'm done. Chao Zhengming looked at everyone with a smile. His expression seemed to be saying, "Hurry up and praise me. Hurry up and praise me." Old man Chao was so weak that he almost slid off his chair. It's over, it's all over now. As for the other old men, the expressions on their faces changed from confusion to skepticism, and finally, uncontrollable rage. Chen Guang was dumbfounded by the entire process. Holy **T, the power of forced PY transactions is a little too strong. Chao Zhengming did not know what he was saying at all. No, he knew. He understood it completely. He was very clear-headed now. However, his outlook on life and the world had been completely distorted. In his heart, what he said was not a bad thing but glory and achievements. The desire to talk that was forced into him through PY transactions forced him to talk about these glorious deeds. At that moment, he was like someone who was born with no sense of pain. His fingers were about to be chopped into pieces, but he was still smiling. Chen Guang thought to himself, "Thank goodness I never have to be my enemy. How pitiful." All the old men, whether they were on Old Man Chao's side or not, were now completely enraged. No wonder there had been leaks when they tried to deal with the Special Affairs Bureau in the past. Ouyang Tianxing's spies had already been planted around them. Even Elder Chao, who had fought alongside him for many years, had indirectly become Ouyang Tianxing's subordinate. In addition, when the matter of the human skin mask was first brought to everyone's desk, the bloody reality of tens of thousands of lives also made many elders furious. He had never imagined that Chao Zhengming would be involved in this matter. Bastard! Shame! This was simply a disgrace. Old Chao, you taught your son well. Unforgivable. Too many to count. In the middle of the room, old Lin was already an old man. He was so angry that his hands were shaking and his lips were blue. He couldn't speak for a long time. After a long time, he finally said, "Send this father and son pair to the military court." As soon as his voice fell, Old Man Chao, who had been beaten black and blue by Chao Zhengming, felt as if 5 bolts of lightning had struck his heart. He knew that not only would he not be able to protect his son, but he would also be unable to protect his chastity in his old age. His eyes rolled back and he fainted. Old Chao fainted. Although Old Man Chao was despicable, he had many old friends in the room. The people around him immediately exclaimed. Seeing this, Chao Zhengming grinned. "Ha ha ha ha! Great, great! Your father fainted because of you, and you still have the cheek to laugh? Are you crazy?" Old Man Chao's best friend, another old man, pointed at Chao Zhengming, who wanted to destroy the entire Chao family, and scolded him angrily. Unexpectedly, Chao Zhengming was completely oblivious to his scolding. After laughing, he tilted his head and looked at them, still grinning foolishly. Was he really crazy? Everyone in the meeting room was stunned at first. Then they were all speechless. All of this was too strange, and it was truly inconceivable. Chen Guang knew this very well. Right, this was the indelible mental damage mentioned by the Heavenly Holy Grail. Turned out that Chao Zhengming had gone crazy. In the forced PY trading mode, full HP was 100 points. His last critical hit had overflowed to 157 points, which seemed to be too much. Forget it, Chao Zhengming didn't deserve any sympathy. He brought this upon himself. He deserved it. Chun Guang couldn't be bothered to watch the farce in the meeting room anymore. He stood up and greeted the two old men. Then, it seems that there's nothing else for me to do. I'll take my leave first? Little Chun. Why did he do this? Old man Jean looked at Chao Zhengming first, then turned to look at Chun Guang suspiciously. His intuition told him that Chun Guang was behind this. Chun Guang shrugged. God knows. Maybe he did too many bad things, and his conscience suddenly awakened. He was too ashamed, so he went crazy. Impossible! Old man Jiang interrupted. However, Chun Guang pretended to be crazy. Grandpa Jiang, what do you think the reason is? I glared at him, and he went crazy? Then I'm not an internal force martial artist anymore. I'm a god. Okay? The two old men looked at each other in dismay. Chun Guang didn't waste time with them. He looked at the other old men who were in a mess, and Lin Jingwei's grandfather who was so angry that his lips were black and his face was pale. He didn't want to care at first, but he remembered Lin Jingwei's friendship, so he walked up and lightly patted the old man's shoulder. He transferred some of his inner strength into the old man's body, allowing him to breathe more easily. Old man Lin took 2 deep breaths, and his expression softened. He looked up at Chun Guang beside him. Thank you. Old man Jin's face flushed red. Perhaps it's precisely because of his carefree attitude that he was able to become a grandmaster at such a young age. Old man Jiang said again, but what if the other inner force martial artists in the general administration really don't want to submit? These people are more rebellious than we think. Old man Lin, on the other hand, had thought things through. Forget it. From now on, the headquarters will not have a director. We'll let the 2 young girls continue to be in charge. Those 2 girls have a close relationship with Chun Guang. Even if others don't give them face, they'll still have to give some face to the spokesperson of the Wulin Alliance. Old man Jiang nodded slightly. That's true. On the other side, Chao Zhengming was still giggling, and saliva dripped from the corner of his mouth. Whether he was really crazy or pretending to be crazy, he couldn't escape the trial. Based on the evidence and testimonies that he had mentioned just now, everything he had done would be exposed as soon as they followed the clues and followed them all the way to the melon. As a senior leader, Old Man Chao couldn't escape the crime of covering up and harboring a criminal. Walking out of the courtyard, Chun Guang stretched and took a deep breath of the fresh air outside, feeling refreshed. He had finally seen through everything. Even if Chao Zhengming confessed to all the crimes in the end and proved his innocence, and the father and son of the Chao family were destined to be executed. But after such a torment, those old men should also understand that he was not a chess piece that they could control. If he continued to sit in that position, the end result would probably be to continue to be suspicious. In the future, he would have to find ways to deal with them and fight with them. Although he could be invincible, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to replace them one day in the future. But wasn't it boring? Humans only have one life, and plants only have one spring. Why not do something that you really like and are interested in, so that you can live a more leisurely and comfortable life? Why do you have to sharpen your head and plunge into that dirty, rotten swamp? Even if you can get out of the swamp, sit on the throne in the swamp and grasp the power, so what? Can you live one more year? Can you fight against time and death if you become the leader? Thinking of their lives, Chun Guang felt tired for them. It looked glamorous, but how was it comfortable? It wasn't easy for him to get this stinky body, and now he had sought refuge with the Emperor of the Azure from the endless divine realm. He should have spent more time on the heavenly Holy Grail. He looked up at the blue sky and white clouds above his head. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to be too shocking, he would have looked up to the sky and roared. If this place doesn't keep me, I'll roam the world. From now on, I'll just focus on cultivating my path to godhood and saving my sister Lioli. Why would I care about your schemes? Chapter 936. After some commotion in the conference room, the father and son of the Chao family were finally taken away. He didn't know if Chao Zhengming was really crazy or just pretending to be crazy, but he was still arrested at the first moment. Naturally, he was investigated from the beginning to the end. Old Chao fainted and was immediately sent to the neighboring medical institution. But according to the doctor's report, the situation was not optimistic. Old Chow was so angry that his blood rushed to his head. He was not young to begin with and had high blood pressure. After the rush, he showed signs of a cerebral hemorrhage when he fainted. Who knew if there would be a more serious aftereffects from this seemingly simple fainting? Although they had finally caught the mole, the other old men in the conference room did not feel very happy. Especially after Chen Guang resigned before leaving, they were all dumbfounded. They felt that they were particularly ridiculous. They had tried to get rid of Chen Guang previously, but they did not expect him to abandon his position as the bureau chief. Everyone then realized that Chen Guang had made up his mind from the beginning to deal with the father and son of the Chow family and leave freely. He would then live a carefree life in the future. But the more carefree he appeared, the more the old men in the conference room felt their hearts clench. How embarrassing. Chen Guang expressed that he did not care how those old men felt. After coming out, he had wanted to call the Guangdong General Administration staff in Beijing to pick him up. But then he thought about it and changed his mind. Although there was no such thing as a seal today since he was going to resign, he had to be more decisive. Therefore, he simply refused Secretary Chu's offer to arrange a car for him. He stood at the gate of the Nanhai Villa district, and under the dumbfounded gazes of the guards and Secretary Chu, he took out his phone and made an online taxi booking. Then, under the fearful gaze of the online hailing taxi driver, he sat down. "Sir, Shishan Villa District." The poor driver was scared out of his wits. "My brother, can you not take a taxi here next time? My hands were a little too dirty just now, and I almost peed my pants on the way here." Chen Guang laughed. "What's there to be nervous about? Aren't the people in here also human?" "You can't say that. They're all humans, but the people living here aren't ordinary people. Let me tell you, on my way here, there were at least 17 or 18 barbets aimed at my head. Do you believe me? It's just that I've rejected too many orders recently. If I unilaterally cancel your order, the transaction rate will fall below 50%. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come here even if I was beaten to death. I'm telling you, there isn't a single good person here." Chen Guang rolled his eyes. He had long heard that the taxi drivers in Yanjing were reasonable, but he didn't expect that the drivers of online car-hailing cars were not that bad. After talking for a long time, the driver thought that Chen Guang would be able to chat with him, but after waiting for a long time, he didn't hear anything from the back. The atmosphere seemed a little cold. The driver kept muttering to himself. Wait, something was wrong. This young man had just come out from there. When he left, many people even saluted him. The middle-aged man who looked like a leader was bowing and scraping to him. Damn, he's a big shot. I just told him that there isn't a single good person here. Damn, I'm causing trouble from my mouth. That, brother, I don't mean anything else. Actually, if it weren't for you, our country wouldn't be so developed now. The driver hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. Chen Guang saw that he was scared. It's okay. You don't have to explain to me. You're right. There isn't a single good person here. After that, he ignored the driver and started to play with his phone. He opened his Weibo account. Recently, he didn't have any news outside, and the company's operations team didn't update anything new. The latest content was related to the World's Language Club. The comment section below his Weibo account was filled with fans' comments. Most of them were asking him where he had been recently and why there was no news from him. For example, "Brother All-Rounder, we miss you so much. You can always update your Weibo and say something." Brother All-Rounder is filming recently, right? Isn't the filming for Heroine already started? The one above stopped talking. I heard from my friends who work at Film City that they didn't even see Brother All-Rounder at all. That can't be, right? He's the male lead. The filming has already started, and he doesn't even go to the set? The director is Deng Xiaojiang, who's famous for being harsh. The die-hard fans above, you should wake up. Your Brother All-Rounder has become too arrogant. He has no artistic ethics. Get lost, damn haters. What right do you have to say that? What right do I have to say that? Have you forgotten? He's not only the male lead, he's also an investor. He invested 120 million. Not to mention the director is Deng Xiaojiang, No one can do anything to him. Who can do anything to the boss? From what I see, he's probably using a stunt double the entire time. At most, he'll shoot a few close-up shots of his face. Isn't that the trend among the little fresh meats recently? Just wait and see. This is still filming in Film City. When it's time to shoot the outdoor scenes, I promise to show you the entire process. That can't be, right? That's his own money. How can he waste it like that? So what if it's his own money? In any case, he has you die-hard fans supporting him, right? When the time comes, no matter how bad the filming is, he's still a celebrity. You die-hard fans will still pay for him, okay? That's right. Chun Guang doesn't have any acting skills to begin with. He's not a professional actor either. He's just relying on his money, power, and fame. He doesn't take his filming seriously and has no professionalism. No one can do anything about it. I just pity Big Beard Deng and the other main leads. From what I see, it's not that he doesn't want to do the filming, but he doesn't have the skills to do it. He has no choice but to use a stunt double. Who knows, maybe even a stunt double can act better than him. That's enough. It's normal to use stunt doubles for TV series, but this is a blockbuster movie. It's going to be on the big screen. You can even use stunt doubles like that? Aren't you afraid of being exposed and getting scolded to death? Anyway, there are die-hard fans paying for it. He just wants to make money. What's important is to make money. Who cares if the movie is good or not? Why don't you use your brains and think about it? He's been doing so many things in the past. Other than acting in a few commercials, what else has he done that has anything to do with acting? I don't believe that he has the time to learn acting either. Acting in a blockbuster movie isn't something that you're born with. In any case, I won't go to the cinema. I don't want to suffer from embarrassment. That's right. He's taken the majority of the movie's profits. Now that he's famous, he's thinking of cashing in on his fame. What's the difference between him and those idols who only know how to take a huge sum of money but start counting it the moment they step out of the neighborhood? No, he has no bottom line, all right? Bad money drives out good money. Nowadays, anyone can act just because they have a bit of fame. What's more, they're the male lead of a blockbuster movie the moment they arrive. This is simply the tragedy of this era. Although I think that a lot of the haters are right and make sense, this atmosphere is a little familiar. In the past, no matter what he did, there were still a lot of people who analyzed it logically. This time, Brother All-Rounder is going to kneel, Brother All-Rounder is going to be done for, Brother All-Rounder is going to be too pretentious. But in the end, the people who criticized him were slapped in the face so badly every time. I'm a veteran hater-turned-fan. Because of this, I've suffered a lot. This time, I won't be fooled no matter what you say. You don't know, but I made a bet with my classmate. I said that if he doesn't kneel, he'll eat 3 pounds of sh*t. That group of beasts really mixed sh*t into my curry beef rice. I don't care. I believe him. The old driver, Brother All-Rounder, never fails. Retarded, brain-dead fan. In your eyes, even the skin of his feet is fragrant. Retarded haters don't just F***king hate. If you have the guts, come and bet. If he doesn't fail, do you dare to broadcast yourself eating 3 pounds of sh*t? Let's bet. Previous poster, save it. In the past, there were so many people who said the same thing as you that I can't even count. If you really do it, our Wujing City's septic tank will be empty. Chun Guang casually swept through the comments section and saw that these people were in a heated discussion. Honestly speaking, he had been too busy recently. The things he was involved in were too high-end, so he didn't give Brother Yang Shi a chance to pester him. As a result, he had almost completely forgotten about the filming. As for why Uncle Big Beard didn't call him to hurry up the male lead, it was likely that Zhang Yage and Jin Shuriwei had leaked some information to him. Uncle Big Beard might not be aware of his identity as the director of the Guangdong General Headquarters, but he should be aware of the fact that his status was extraordinary. However, the netizens were really going a little too far. In the past year, there had been incidents like Miss Numbers, Mr. Numbers, Masked Knight, and the cutout duo that had sullied the reputations of male idols and popular female celebrities. He had accidentally been classified as one of those people and had become a scapegoat for those people. Are you kidding me? I'm the best actor in history. Is every frown and smile of the old man a good actor? He's gonna make you guys doubt your own life. That's right. I'm not born with acting skills. But do you know how much I've suffered and how much cruel training I've gone through to get my acting skills? I'm the most dedicated actor. How many times have I exploded on the spot just to learn acting skills? No one has ever worked so hard to learn acting skills like me. No, I'm really going to die, alright? Looking at the few diehard haters who were slandering him in the comments section, Chen Guang really wanted to beat them to death. To be honest, if it wasn't for the fact that he knew that no matter how careless he looked right now, he would be able to instantly get into character and give a perfect performance in front of the camera, Chen Guang would have been convinced by those haters in the comments section. No, I have to do something. If I allow this matter to continue brewing and the public boycotts my movie, the box office might collapse. It'll be a small matter if I lose money, but my reputation will be ruined. It'll be difficult for me to make a comeback and have people acknowledge my acting skills. Acting skills were much more subjective and difficult to quantify than playing the piano. There were 1,000 Hamlets in 1,000 people's eyes. If you can't show an irrefutable and dominant performance, no matter how good your acting is, you won't be able to convince everyone. In other words, even if Chen Guang really played a role perfectly, if he had been slandered before, he would have to work hard step by step if he wanted to prove himself. Just like Lil Lee in the past. When he first debuted, he was labeled as a little fresh meat and an idol because he was too handsome. Later, no matter how good his acting was, he could only be a bystander in the Oscars. In order to get an Oscar, he tortured himself to the point where he could only get what he wanted once he was middle-aged. There were still so many worlds in a cup waiting to be explored, and so many statues waiting to be erected. Chen Guang didn't have the leisure and time to torture himself with one movie every year until he was in his 30s or 40s. Although he didn't have to rely on women to establish a statue of acting skills overnight, at least he couldn't destroy his own reputation because of this. Therefore, no matter what, he couldn't continue to let the netizens continue to criticize him like this. After getting out of the car, he walked to the security gate of the Shishan Villas while thinking about how to turn the tide of public opinion. Chapter 937. The cycle of shooting a movie can be as long as a month or two, or as long as a few years. Big Beard Deng can't shoot a movie fast, and he strives for perfection. After the scenes are finished, he still has to work on the post-production. It is estimated that it will take at least half a year for the movie to be released. At that time, the public opinion of criticizing his acting skills on the internet will become a wind vane, and it will be politically correct to unite to boycott women. It is hard to guarantee that the worst situation will not happen. That is, others may not go to the cinema to watch the film, but regardless of the consequences, they will first criticize him on the internet and in the circle of life, and they will also collect the negative information on the internet and criticize him logically. At that time, no matter how the people who have watched the film in the cinema or the people who have watched the film on the internet help him, they may not be able to change the preconceived ideas of others. Chen Guang is still thinking about it when he walks to the Zhang's villa and sees Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yage. As for the unpleasantness that happened in the Nanhai Sea before, after he just resigned from the general administration of Guangdong, he should feel the melancholy of someone walking in front of the cold tea door. Sorry, he doesn't feel this kind of emotion at all. If today is not the Spring Festival, he even wants to buy a roll of 10,000 firecrackers to celebrate this big news. You look a little absent-minded. I heard from Grandpa that you have resigned, and I thought you were really as free and easy as you pretend to be in front of them. It turns out that you still care about them. Jiang Yage's mental state is not very good at the moment, but she can't show it in front of Jin Shiyue. She grits her teeth and asks Chen Guang to sit down, and she goes to pour water. Chen Guang looks at her awkward appearance when she walks and feels very embarrassed. He wants to help her, but she doesn't want to. On the way here, Jiang Yage has told him that he must not let Jin Shiyue know what happened between them last night, or she will hang herself. Yage, just sit down. If you sprain your waist, you should behave yourself or it will take a few days to get better. Jin Shiyue gets up and presses Jiang Yage back to the sofa and gets up to pour water. I'll do it myself. All of you sit tight. Chen Guang took out the cup that he carried with him everywhere he went. Today he was soaking in bamboo green tea. As he added water, he said, I didn't even think about the Guangdong headquarters. I'm having a headache about something else. You really don't want to work? What could be more important than this? Jiang Yage asked curiously. Chen Guang snorted. Of course, being an official is so boring. So boring. Then what is it that can give you a headache? Jin Shuriwei looked at him with interest. Chen Guang blushed. I browsed Weibo for a while on the way here. Recently, I've been scolded quite badly online. Are you talking about the movie? My God. You still remember it. We all thought you had forgotten all about it. You don't know, but Big Beard is almost crying. He keeps asking us when we can tie you up and show your face on the set. Jiang Yage said grumpily. Jin Shuriwei also said, Director Deng has been under a lot of pressure recently. On one hand, you, the male lead, are not present from the beginning to the end, and he has to rehearse properly. On the other hand, he has to deal with the limelight on the internet. He is also afraid of ruining his own reputation. Recently, he has been saying that if he knew it would be like this, he would not have accepted the role in the first place. He is so worried that his beard has turned white. Chen Guang imagined Uncle Big Beard's beard turning white in his mind, and he felt sorry for him for 3 seconds. Forget it, I'll feel sorry for myself first. I also feel that it's not a good idea to always be slandered like this. Money is a small matter, but reputation is important. But I can't think of any ideas on how to turn the limelight around. After all, filming is not something that can be done overnight. It will take a few months to see the results. By that time, I'm afraid I will have been slandered like Lord Bao. Jin Shuriwei pondered and said, Why don't we go to the set today instead of choosing a day? Anyway, Uncle Chow has already been convicted, so there shouldn't be any danger. Chen Guang thought about it and felt that it was reasonable. Okay, we'll go later. If you want to go, you two go. I don't want to move now. Ouch, my waist. Jiang Yage pretended to rub her waist. Chen Guang exchanged a look with her, which was basically asking her with his eyes, Are you okay? Jiang Yage silently made an okay expression, which was her reply to Chen Guang. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Then she flew her eyes to the porcelain cup on the table in the distance. Chen Guang smelled a medicinal fragrance. This should be the nourishing chicken soup made by the servants at home. It was called Nourishing Yin and Kidney. Jin Shuriwei had no idea that Chen Guang and Jiang Yage had communicated 10,000 thoughts behind her back. At this time, she was helping Chen Guang think about the online comments. Recently, she had been staying at the set all day, so she was the clearest about the direction of this matter. In the past, Chen Guang did not mention it, nor did he care, so she did not say much. Since he brought it up when they met today, she had to help think of a solution. Jin Shuriwei analyzed with a frown. But this is ultimately a solution that doesn't solve the root of the problem. Director Deng's recent schedule has already been written to next week, and the other actors have already been arranged. Your scenes will be next month at the earliest, so it's not convenient to rush your scenes at the last minute. Even if you go to the set, it doesn't seem to be of much use. At most, it can make Director Deng feel a little more at ease. Chen Guang nodded and asked, Then other than acting in a movie, what else can I do to prove my acting skills? Jiang Yage said, Acting skills? Drama. Most of the truly good actors can act in plays. Sister Shuriwei and I have also acted in plays for a period of time in the past. That kind of live performance on stage is completely different from acting in front of a camera. It's especially challenging. Wait, what did you say just now? You want to prove your acting skills? Jin Shuriwei said, Don't joke around. Acting in a drama is completely different from acting in a movie. Chen Guang can't do it. Jiang Yage nodded. That's right, that's right. Unexpectedly, Chen Guang's eyes were getting brighter and brighter. What the hell is going on in your head? Please don't say. Jiang Yage started to panic. Chen Guang stood up and said, That's right. I want to act in a drama. He had almost forgotten about it. What was he best at? He was the best content provider. Now, whether it was himself or Tianguang manager, they both had ample experience in organizing live events. Since drama was the best test of acting skills, and there was no trouble in post-production, Then he could organize a live drama just like how he organized the International Throne Challenge or the piano joint performance. This kind of short, fast, and effective project was what he liked the most and was best at. Jin Shuriyue and Jiang Ye's jaws dropped as they looked at him, dumbfounded. Obviously, this guy wasn't talking nonsense. He was serious. This isn't a good idea? Jin Shuriyue pinched the hem of her casual shirt as she imagined Chen Guang performing a drama on stage. Goosebumps appeared all over her body. Jiang Ye also said anxiously, "I was just saying, don't take it seriously." Chen Guang didn't care about their shocked expressions. He clenched his fists excitedly and started pacing around the room. "I'll start planning now. With my company's efficiency, it should be done by next week. The venue should be in Wujing. After all, I haven't been to school for a long time. Planning and publicity aren't important. After all, no matter how big the theater is, there are only a few tickets. We can't make the theater too big. What's important is the publicity and live broadcast on TV. Let Little Tsong handle the live broadcast. Let's not care about the live broadcast for now. We'll sell it to whoever offers the highest price. Then the question is, what should I perform? I have to think about it. I can't be the only actor in a play. It's best to choose a play that's representative. It's best if there are many people who can perform it. It'll be easier to find supporting roles." Jiang Ye and Jin Shuriyue stared blankly at Chen Guang as he walked around the living room and muttered to himself. This guy was completely in character. Suddenly, Chen Guang turned around and looked at the two of them with glowing eyes. He asked, "What's the most popular play?" Jiang Ye answered, "Thunderstorm." Chen Guang clapped his hands. "Good. Let's perform Thunderstorm." "That's crazy." Jin Shuriyue's face turned pale. "Don't mess around. What do you think a play is? A children's art show? Do you know what the status of Thunderstorm is in the world of plays? There are thousands of actors in the country, and at least 30% of them have performed before. Do you think it's easy to perform when there are more actors? The more actors who have performed Thunderstorm, the more people will compare you to them. Even a small flaw will be magnified infinitely. Moreover, you've done some commercials before. Yes, you did a good job when you guest starred in Country and Throne, but you had to pressure director Deng for an entire afternoon to get that 30-second scene. Wake up." Jiang Ye also nodded. "That's right. My dear Guang, even though you're a little famous now, you can't insult it like this, right?" Chen Guang stood proudly and smiled. "You're looking down on me, aren't you? But I don't blame you. I'm used to it. I can only tell you that a play is a piece of cake for me." Then, under their dumbfounded gazes, he called LV Xiaoyang, the butt-face. "Xiao Lu, I've got a new idea recently." "Oh, President Chen, please speak." Previously, Chen Guang had casually promised him 100,000 yuan in cash. Comrade Xiao Lu had probably used this money to buy a house. The moment he opened his mouth, he was being considerate and respectful to his boss. "I want to perform in a play. Get old Yu and old Fong to help me prepare. I'll perform in the 5 capitals as soon as possible. It's best if it's within the next week." Lu Xiaoyang. "This master is messing around again. Do you know about Thunderstorm? It's that famous play. Quickly help me find actors. Money is not a problem. Anyway, we can only use high prices to hire actors. They must be experienced actors and not young actors. It doesn't matter if they're famous or not, but they must have high standards. Only then can they serve as a foil to me." Chen Guang did not wait for Comrade Xiao Lu to reply. He hung up and snapped his fingers. Done. Jin Shuriyue and Jiang Ye were completely speechless. It was like they had seen a ghost. Chen Guang could no longer be called arrogance. He was simply exploding on the spot. Chapter 938. Chen Guang settled the matter with just a few words over the phone. He couldn't care less about what would happen to the people in the company because of what he said. As the saying went, one must be loyal to the ruler. This was the current situation. Because he had to collect faith points, he was destined to do things as he pleased. It would be especially tiring for others to work for him. When he was free, he might have to dawdle for days. When he was busy, it would be like this. With a single order, the entire company would have to move. Before the entire project was completed, they would not be able to rest. Because of this, Chen Guang never treated the company's middle management poorly. People like Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, Su Li, and Lu Xiaoyang all had annual salaries of more than 200,000 yuan. Yu Hong, who had returned from overseas to host work, had an annual salary of 500,000 yuan. Adding on the bonuses that Chen Guang would occasionally give out, he estimated that his annual salary would not be less than 1,000,000 yuan. It was not the end of the fiscal year yet. When it was New Year, Chen Guang planned to give out a huge year-end bonus. He was not careless about giving out bonuses for competitions, and he was even more careless about giving out salaries to his own people. Anyway, he was so poor that he only had money left. When the time came, Yu Hong's income would only be higher than when he was overseas. In addition, Yu Hong was a high-ranking employee of the Tang Jie Foundation. Although his personnel had been transferred, he should still have an annual salary similar to that of a consultant in the Tang Jie Foundation. Although the boss, Chen Guang, was always unreliable, every time he did something unreliable, he would make a lot of money for the company. Chen Guang also never criticized their work. Although they were quite tired of serving him, the work for the past few months had been quite comfortable. Anyone who used a good boss in China would know. The biggest advantage of following a boss who could become famous all over the country, no, all over the world, was that he didn't have to worry. Anyway, he wasn't afraid of losing money, and he wouldn't lose money. The biggest disadvantage was that it was troublesome. Anyway, no matter what he did, he could make a big deal out of a small matter. He could also make a big scene out of a small matter. Every time he did it, he would scare people. It was the same this time. In Beijing, Chen Guang had his eyes on Jin Shuriyue and Jiang Yage. "Are the two of you interested in acting with me?" The two of them shook their heads like a rattle drum. They couldn't afford to lose face. Jin Shuriyue was even a little angry. She felt that Chen Guang was simply trampling on her professional field. Chen Guang was the only one who did this. If it was someone else, Jin Shuriyue would have already looked down on him with her character and blacklisted him in her heart. This person wasn't reliable, and it's best if they don't interact with him in the future. At this moment, Jin Shuriyue was worried for Chen Guang. She first shook her head, then worried for him. On one hand, she didn't want to see his money go down the drain. On the other hand, she was worried that he would embarrass himself on stage. From the first time they met, when Chen Guang took the life-saving reward, Jin Shuriyue realized that he was a person who would rather suffer than lose face. Jin Shuriyue didn't want to see him be unhappy because he lost face on stage. "Sigh. I was thinking that if the two of you joined in, the drama would be more popular," Chen Guang said with a regretful tone. Jin Shuriyue was slightly moved. She thought that if she could watch over him the whole time, no matter how bad his acting skills were, she might be able to help him. However, on the other side, Jiang Yage desperately winked at her, telling her not to be silly. Jiang Yage pinched her fingers and began to calculate the time for Chen Guang. "You think it's easy. I only have 2 days off. I have to go to the set later. Most of Sister Shuriyue's scenes have to be shot during this period. She has to go to the promotion of our new album. How would she have time to prepare for your drama? Even if it's the thunderstorm we acted in when we were learning to act, it's not something that can be done easily, okay? You don't need to revise the script or memorize the lines." Chen Guang nodded. "That's right. After all, you're not like me. I can't just go on stage and act." When he said this, he was really serious. It didn't seem like he was joking at all. Jiang Yage and Jin Shuriyue were completely speechless. "My brother, where did you get this confidence from?" The two of them felt very tired. They really sympathized with his employees in his company. Did this guy always do things like this in the past? How tired was that? Wait, it seemed like the two of them weren't any better. In the past, they thought that maybe he was just too busy and couldn't pay attention to acting. Now it seemed that this guy simply thought that he was a genius. He didn't need to learn to act and could do it easily. Although, from the beginning, when Jiang Yage appointed Chen Guang to act in the movie, she didn't have high hopes for him. At that time, she even thought that it would be better if he didn't act well. For example, kissing scenes and so on. How happy would that be? It didn't matter if the movie's box office and reputation were bad. Anyway, he had acted in many types of TV and movies. He just hadn't acted in a bad movie that purely relied on reputation. With his and sister Shiryue's box office appeal, they shouldn't lose too much. It wasn't like they couldn't afford to lose this bit of money. At that time, Chen Guang was just a rising internet celebrity. Jiang Yage felt that even if his acting skills weren't good, he could slowly grind out a good show, just like when he was filming Country. But now it seemed that his attitude was very problematic. She still hoped to slowly grind him. With the confidence he showed today, even if she said a few more words to him, he would probably explode. They weren't afraid that he didn't have acting skills. They were most afraid that he was clearly not a professional actor, but still thought that he was a movie king. The two of them wanted to persuade him again, but seeing that he had eaten a weight and was determined, they thought that it would be useless to say anything in a short period of time. Fine, they had to accept their fate. They would help him pray to the god of acting in their hearts. After the three of them chatted for more than half an hour, Chen Guang and Jin Shiryue went out together. As the #1 investor of the movie and the male lead, he was finally willing to visit the set. Big Beard was so excited that he almost cried. "I say, you're finally willing to come. I thought you became a missing person. Otherwise, I would have thought that you forgot about the movie." "Uncle, look at what you're saying. I'm such a dedicated person. How could I forget? I was too busy previously, otherwise I would have come long ago." Big Beard Deng nodded repeatedly. I understand. Through some channels, whether overt or covert, Big Beard was not completely clear about Chen Guang's recent identity, but he had a feeling that he suddenly disappeared a few days ago. He looked for Jin Shiryue and Jiang Yage to ask about his whereabouts, and even got a top-secret reply. Originally, he was worried that this young man, who he admired in the past, would change a little and become a little difficult to deal with now that his identity was not quite the same. Big Beard felt that his worry was not without reason. Fortunately, he met him today, and after a few words, he found that this young man was still so enthusiastic. Big Beard heard him call him uncle, which made his heart feel comfortable. Everyone had a little bit of vanity, and Big Beard Deng was no exception. In the past, when Chen Guang was just a poor boy, Big Beard felt very close to him when he was called uncle. Now that Chen Guang had become a big shot and he still called him uncle, Big Beard felt honored and proud. He could also feel the respect that Chen Guang had for him. Just by calling him uncle, most of the long-accumulated grievances in Big Beard Deng's heart suddenly disappeared, and his breath became smooth. There were no scenes for Chen Guang today, and the flight back to Wujing that he booked was at night, so he followed the crew with great interest for the whole afternoon. Big Beard Deng was also happy to bring him along. While acting, he seized the opportunity to teach him. Yang Shi, who was listening, felt embarrassed for Big Beard. He really wanted to tell Director Deng, "Please don't sell your melons." Whether it is in theory or in practice, the internet celebrity in front of you, the big investment boss, the versatile brother, Uncle Chen is the real ancestor-level best actor. I almost talked to you until my mouth is broken. Why don't you believe me even if I beat you to death? Also, Chen Guang was also a bad person. Even if he didn't shoot his scene today, he could have just casually given Director Deng a paragraph like last time. With Director Deng's vision, after seeing his ability to get into character in an instant and even bring others into his scene, it was absolutely impossible for him to have any doubts about his ability. If, in Director Deng's eyes, Chen Guang's commercial was not enough to prove his acting skills, then he would show you on the spot and bring you into his field. You should believe it, right? Yang Shi felt that he had to admit that there was such a crazy genius in this world, and that was Chen Guang. If there was anything he wouldn't do, it could only be because he was not interested in this matter. Unfortunately, until Chen Guang left, Yang Shi didn't wait for him to show his skills in front of Big Beard. Even if he had found a chance to whisper a few words to Chen Guang in private, it was useless. Chen Guang told him another piece of news, and Yang Shi understood his thoughts. First, this guy was going to act in a play. Second, it was next week. He didn't reveal his skills now so that when he acted in a play, the feeling of contrast between before and after would be stronger, so that his play would have a stronger impact in an instant. Yang Shi couldn't help but be impressed. No wonder Chen Guang could succeed at such a young age. In addition to his real ability, he was really good at the details and scheming when it came to running a project. Wait, didn't Big Beard ask me to follow him all day? How could there be no director in a play? Opportunity. When Chen Guang left, Yang Shi decisively ran to Big Beard and volunteered to go to Wujing. Big Beard didn't understand. Didn't you think it was meaningless in the past? Yang Shi chuckled as he continued, Director Deng, I've already deeply understood my mistake. I guarantee that I'll definitely make Chen Guang into an Oscar winner before next month. I can make a military pledge. If I can't do it, I will cut my head off. Big Beard Deng gave him a kick. When did you learn to be so glib with Chen Guang? Get lost. What are you doing? I'm asking you to go to Wujing with him. Thus, Chen Guang, the first main creative member of the play Thunderstorm, and also the director, left Big Beard Deng's set and came to Wujing. Chapter 939. Chen Guang trusted Yang Shi's ability. Since he was interested, he would leave it to him. When the two of them got off the plane in Wujing, it was already past 9 p.m. Chen Guang directly threw Yang Shi to Tianguang Agency and took a taxi back to the neighborhood outside the school. The poor Tianguang Agency's 4 great King Kongs. In the afternoon, Chen Guang gave them a phone call and threw them an unimaginable idea. Just like that, they could become his shopkeepers. He was quite comfortable. It was just a matter of a few words and a phone call. However, Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, Su Li, and Lu Xiaoyang had no choice but to accept the cruel reality that their short vacation was completely ruined. Whether it was holding a competition or other activities, the entire project's establishment, planning, implementation, copyright operations, ticketing management, venue rentals, and clothing during the live performances, etc. It was simply a basket of troubles, not to mention that the time this time was so short. This master had always been in charge of killing and not burying. The few of them had a meeting in the company while making phone calls everywhere to find people. It was a headache. Fortunately, he was going to act in a traditional drama, Thunderstorm. This saved them the trouble of writing a script and training new actors. After all, this drama was reserved for domestic performing arts students. However, the time he gave them was too short. He even asked for experienced actors to act for him. Wasn't this torture? It was not easy to gather all the main cast members in a short period of time. Lu Xiaoyang used the connections he had accumulated over the years as a paparazzi and managed to find a few actors. However, the biggest problem was that he still had not found a director. Although he knew that CEO Chen's acting skills were a little crazy and that when he was good, he could easily shoot 12 sets of commercials a day. However, suddenly going on stage to act in a drama was like suddenly going from the county school league to the English Premier League. It was a little unrealistic. Therefore, they had to find a good director. Although it was not a famous director, they couldn't just randomly find a directing student from the school to make up the numbers, right? At the very least, they had to find an experienced veteran, right? Otherwise, how could they keep him under control? Everyone understood the reason, but time was too tight. Many people immediately backed out when they heard that they had to go on stage next week at the latest, but they hadn't even settled on the actors yet. They didn't even discuss the price. Secondly, even if they managed to convince him, the moment they heard that Chen Guang wanted to play the male lead, they would immediately fall through and refuse to do it even if they were offered more money. Those who spoke harshly were already swearing, and those who had a little bit of self-restraint were all kinds of sudden scapulohumeral periarthritis, gingivitis, and tenosynovitis. Thirdly, there were some people who were willing to come, but they were all unorthodox directors who specialized in online popular supernatural films. They did not have the slightest bit of ability and only wanted to come here to pass the time and become familiar with CEO Chen. With President Chen's temperament, this kind of person would definitely be kicked away by him, and the few of them would also be labeled as incompetent. How could a good play not have a director? Since Thunderstorm was first put on the stage more than 80 years ago, it had been performed thousands of times on different stages, on TV or the big screen by different actors. There were countless different versions, some classic and some rubbish. Every play of Thunderstorm, produced by a different director, would more or less have the director's personal characteristics. Whether it was a play or a TV movie, the screenwriter was the skeleton of the work, The actors were the face and flesh of the work, and the director was the soul of the entire work. Even twins who looked exactly the same would show completely different personalities because of the different souls living in their bodies, let alone Thunderstorm, which was extremely rich in content. This was a very deep, critical, and meaningful play. Every director would teach the actors according to their own artistic creation, and by paying attention to the details bit by bit, they would work hard to let the emotions of the main cast and the audience burst forth in the theater. In this process of paying attention to the details, the director would put his own personal brand on the stage play. A good director's play would be a classic, while a rookie director's play would make the entire theater audience suffer from embarrassment. In the past, no matter how unreliable the things that President Chun had done seemed at the beginning, the final result had never disappointed anyone. Obviously, his goal this time was the same. He only wanted classics, not rubbish. Therefore, it was difficult to find a director, and it made people worry so much. It was past 10 o'clock at night, and Lu Xiaoyang was still flipping through his little notebook, hesitating. He had basically contacted all the slightly reliable play directors in the country, but basically all of them turned down. Now, he was conflicted about whether he should use the hot news from Zhuo Wei's 8-weekly H drive to force him to give in. This thing was a big killer. Once he took it out, he might be able to achieve his goal in a short time, but it would definitely make people feel uncomfortable and he would become enemies. After all, he was a person of virtue and prestige, and he might not even know that the hot news was stored in the H drive. Xiao Lu, why don't you call this person? Desperate times call desperate measures, and we have no other choice. Fong Tianyu took a deep puff of his cigarette and extinguished it in the ashtray. Yu Hong, who was wearing a gas mask, said in a muffled voice. But when he rejected us just now, he was very polite. Aren't we being too unkind? Su Li also shook his head with his mask on. He could not stand the smell of Fong Tianyu's cigarette, but everyone was very depressed, and they could not stop him from smoking. Lu Xiaoyang slammed the table heavily. Let's do it. President Chun once said that those who achieve great things should not bother about trifles. We will just raise the salary later. The other three people looked at him and gave him a thumbs up. Yu Hong said, Xiao Lu is very courageous. Su Li nodded. As expected of someone from 8 Weekly. Fong Tianyu said, I admire your shamelessness. Under the reverent gazes of the three, Lu Xiaoyang dialed the number. Hello, Director Pan. Are you asleep already? I am Tianguang's agent, Fong Tianyu, who called you just now. F***CK. The next second, Fong Tianyu jumped up and sat on Lu Xiaoyang's waist. He snatched the phone from Lu Xiaoyang's hand and hung up. Yu Hong said, Despicable. Su Li said, Shameless. Fong Tianyu said, You are a true disciple of President Chun. Alright, this matter was put on hold again. Director Pan had made a mistake in the past, and it had been a few years since then. Fong Tianyu could not bear to drag Director Pan down with him. Just then, there was a knock on the office door. A company clerk who was working overtime poked her head in from outside. There's a director named Yang Shi outside. He said that President Chun asked him to come. The eyes of the four of them lit up in a flash. The poor clerk thought that he had caught the attention of 4 higher-ups at the same time, and he was panicking. I can't handle 4 people at once. Lu Xiaoyang slammed the table and stood up. Hurry up and invite Director Yang in. Fong Tianyu let out a long sigh, as expected of President Chun. It seems like he had already selected a director in advance. This is called planning strategies in a tent, and victory will be decided from 1,000 miles away. Su Li rolled his eyes. President Chun is not here. He can't hear your bootlicking. Fong Tianyu took out his phone. I recorded it. The other 3 people looked at him coldly. Despicable. Lu Xiaoyang said. Even more despicable than me. Anyway, the director's matter was settled. Brother Yang Shi had walked right into the trap and saved the 4 great directors of Tianguang Agency. As for Chun Guang, he was sitting on the sofa nervously with his hands on his knees. He looked at the 2 little girls who were on the verge of tears and had a slight headache. Actually, he should have gone straight to Guangdong headquarters to tell the 2 of them that he had resigned. But it was a little late when he got off the plane, so he did not go. On the other hand, since he had already resigned, he had to be thorough. He did not want others to say that he was lying behind his back. He had already resigned, but he was still thinking about it, and it would be a joke. He did not expect that the two of them had already seen through his thoughts and were already waiting for him at home. "Are you giving up on us? You're so heartless. My ass is growing. How could you just leave like that? You're leaving so pitifully. From now on, my little sweetheart and I will be alone in the headquarters. We'll be bullied by those cruel and evil martial artists and have to rely on them to survive. Chun Guang, do you have the heart to leave me and little Meow Meow in the headquarters? You're the chief of the martial arts world now. How do you expect little Meow Meow and I to convince the masses?" The two little girls were talking one after another. Chun Guang looked at them and felt a headache coming on. It was especially so for Enchanting. Honestly speaking, Chun Guang even felt that he was hallucinating. Did nothing happen between the two of them? Why didn't this last change much from before? No, she was a little different. Actually, the two of them were pretending to be in high spirits. It seemed like they were purposely trying to cheer him up. It was no wonder. Their master had passed away not long ago, and it was only the 7th day. The grand funeral was still in preparation. How could they be in such high spirits? Although he had told them that their master was not completely dead and they believed him, there was no way to prove it in such a short amount of time. Moreover, the two seniors had really died physically. It was really hard on them now. Perhaps they felt disappointed that they were stripped of their position as the chief bureau after returning from Beijing. So they purposely joked around to cheer him up. This must be the rotten idea of Wu Miaowan, who had even more crooked ways. Patting on Enchanting's head, Chun Guang continued, all right, you guys can stop trying to cheer yourselves up. I'm feeling tired for you guys." Sure enough, as soon as he finished speaking, the two of them instantly slumped down and sat on either side of him dejectedly with their heads drooping. "Senior Enchanting and Senior Wu's funeral is the day after tomorrow, right?" Chun Guang asked. "Yes. Will you be there then?" Enchanting asked. "Almost all the sects in the bureau will send representatives. Actually, we know that with the reputation of the Thousand Despair sect and Thousand Flower Valley in the pugilistic world, those big sects won't pay much attention to the death of their sect leaders. It's all because of you." "But you—" Chun Guang interrupted her. "Of course I'll be there. Although I'm no longer the bureau chief, it doesn't affect my relationship with you. It's only right that they give you face for my sake." Wu Miaowan asked, "After you resigned today?" There was news from Beijing that Xuelin was not appointed as the bureau chief. He's still the team leader of the special operations team. The bureau will not have a chief position in the future. The two deputy bureau chiefs will temporarily take over the bureau chief's affairs. Chapter 940. Chun Guang nodded. They're smart enough to know that they can't easily push Xuelin, who isn't from the pugilistic world. Although Xuelin and I have a master-disciple relationship, and I acknowledge him, others don't. Forcefully replacing him will only ruin the good situation we're in now. However, without a wise and decisive chief to take the lead, don't you think it's too much work for the two of you to handle the chief's affairs? Enchanting asked. "Aren't you ashamed?" Wu Miaowan said. "Haven't we always been the ones doing things, and you've never cared about anything?" Chun Guang realized that they made a lot of sense, and he couldn't refute them. All right, that's the truth. However, people from the pugilistic world have their own way of doing things. The two of you are still weak, so if you can't handle the situation, you can come to me. Don't make things difficult for yourselves. Wu Miaowan snapped. "Of course. Don't tell me you really don't care about us. You've already taken advantage of our little sweetheart, and you're still going to deny it?" Annoying. Enchanting went after Wu Miaowan again, and the two of them had a good fight before they sat back down. Enchanting was still a little uneasy as she asked, "That, you really don't care about being the chief?" Wu Miaowan immediately spoke up to defend the injustice. "Actually, in my opinion, we shouldn't care about this Guangding headquarters at all. Why don't we just jump out of it? Chun Guang, you can set up your own martial union and be the chief. With your invincible strength, I don't believe that the remaining 5 major sects and 20-odd sects would dare not come. Chun Guang patted Wu Miaowan's head. What nonsense are you thinking? I don't have the leisure to do that. So what if I become the chief of the martial union? Can I become stronger? I've already told you that when Ouyang Tianxing died, I wanted to run away. Do you think I'm joking? The two of them nodded to show that they understood, then shook their heads fiercely, not really believing him. Chun Guang took a deep breath. He decided to show off. He walked to the window with his hands behind his back and looked up at the stars in the sky. You all know that in my previous life, I was a grand mage who could almost break through the barriers of the world. Well, in fact, I became an elemental controller later on. In short, I was very, very strong, the kind of strong without boundaries. My journey is the sea of stars. Why would I care about a mere mortal job? Compared to being a bureau chief, I am more willing to pursue the pinnacle of power. How vast is this universe? You have no idea how many terrifying existences there are in this vast and boundless universe. In the Doluo world of my previous life, Earth was actually just the starting point. There were countless powerful forces hidden in the boundless starry sky of the entire plane. The world-shattering Holy Clan's greatest dream is to rule the universe of the Doluo world. I, Right Chun, am the most talented magician in the history of the Doluo world. My dream is to touch the boundaries of power. When he said this, his tone was calm and deep. His extremely magnetic voice rumbled in the room under the repeated vibrations of his inner strength. It had a power that could penetrate people's hearts. While he was talking, Enchanting and Wu Miaowan unknowingly got up and walked to the window to look at the stars with him. Enchanting cupped her hands. Really? I really envy you. Wu Miaowan said, I also want to learn magic. How about I exchange my body with yours? It's very fresh and tender. Chun Guang wanted to kick Wu Miaowan to death. Can't our thoughts be more normal? So, you guys understand now, it's actually a good thing for me not to be the bureau chief. This way, I can focus more on power. Although I still can't be sure now, maybe one day when I recover or even surpass the power I have in the Doluo world, I can find a way to let Senior Xian and Senior Wu come back to life somewhere. You guys will also have a chance to meet again. As for the two of you, now is the time to fulfill the wishes of the two seniors. Since the two of you represent the Thousand Despair sect and Myriad Flower Valley in your current positions, don't let go of this opportunity to strengthen your sect. Otherwise, the two seniors in the Heavenly Kingdom, if they find out about this in another place, they will be sad. Chun Guang continued to keep his hands behind his back, maintaining the demeanor of an expert. Wu Miaowan nodded like a chick pecking at grains. All right, no problem. Of course, little darling and I understand. But I want to ask, Lord Big Chrysanthemum Head, do you have a way to dual cultivate? When little darling and I are done with our work, we can dual cultivate together and make you stronger faster. All right, little Miaowan, restrain yourself. Enchanting turned around and pulled Wu Miaowan away. Even though Wu Miaowan was the one who was shooting off her mouth, if she really ignited Chun Guang's fire, Enchanting would definitely be the unlucky one. Watching the two drive away from the window, Chun Guang didn't feel melancholy. He actually didn't have any desires at this moment, and he wouldn't do anything to the two of them at such an inappropriate time either. A gentleman was lustful, but he did it in the right way. Now wasn't the right time. The next morning, Chun Guang woke up early and packed his things. For the next few days, he wanted to stay in school. Actually, it hadn't been many days since he wanted to go back to school. But people were like this. If they encountered too many things at a certain time, even if it wasn't a long time, their minds would still feel as if it was a lifetime ago. Looking at his class schedule, he had the first class in the morning. He was actually quite curious about the expressions of the people in class when they realized that he had suddenly come to class. Would there be a lot of people asking for his autograph? How would he charge them then? Speaking of which, he had signed a lot of autographed photos by Nyangzi previously. He didn't know how those scumbags were selling them. Why didn't they give him any commission? As he walked, his thoughts ran wild, and before he knew it, he had passed through the school gate. This was the semi-enclosed Gokyo University, and there weren't many people at the school gate early in the morning. Standing at the school gate and looking inside, Chun Guang saw a figure in a snow-white dress standing at the intersection in the distance, looking back at him. The two were at least 100 meters apart, but with their superhuman eyesight, they could see each other's image very clearly. Chun Guang was stunned for 2 seconds, and then he suddenly laughed. On the other side, Wen also grinned, revealing a mouth full of white teeth, like a blooming jasmine in autumn. Wen was wearing a snow-white casual jacket and light gray jeans. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, and she was carrying a purple leather backpack on her back. Looking at the heavy backpack, there should be textbooks in it. She casually hooked her thumbs on the shoulder straps of the backpack and stood there quietly with her back straight. Even the slightly thick autumn clothes couldn't hide her slender and curvaceous figure. From time to time, boys and girls who passed by would subconsciously focus their eyes on her. There were even some boys who got distracted and accidentally kicked the curb, causing them to grimace in pain. On the other hand, Chun Guang's appearance was much more sloppy. His specialty was that he could wear branded clothes without looking like branded clothes. She raised her leg and took a step forward. Chun Guang jogged to stop in front of her. "Hey, why are you at school again?" Actually, he felt that it was quite strange. After so many things had happened, he thought that it was unlikely that he would see Wen at school again, and that there was no need for her to come back to school. Unexpectedly, Wen didn't answer him, but asked him instead, "Aren't you at school too?" Chun Guang was speechless. He understood what she meant and scratched his head awkwardly. "Pretend I didn't ask." Then he smiled foolishly again. She was right. If he could go back to school, then Wen could, of course, go back too. He suddenly felt that the scene they were in now was just like the time when they had agreed to meet here to go to an internet cafe a long time ago. Obviously, many things had changed, and what had happened to him was simply earth-shattering. But when he suddenly thought back, it seemed that nothing had changed, and everything had returned to the beginning. She was still herself, and he was still himself. The two of them were still here. She was still dressed in white, and he still looked a little sloppy. In the eyes of others, it was like a flower stuck in cow dung. "Why are you in a daze? The bell for the first class is about to ring. Don't tell me you want to be late for the first class?" Wen tugged at his clothes to stop him from being in a daze. Chun Guang sensed the envious gazes directed at him from all directions. He really didn't want to admit this matter. He was clearly more famous now, but Wen managed to make the other guys forget that he was an all-round superhuman. Most of their attention was focused on her. "Recently, my father has been recuperating in the sanatorium in the 5 capitals. With a few experts taking care of him, his condition has gradually stabilized. He didn't want me to see him in such a dejected state, so he had to chase me out. I also didn't have the mood to cultivate, so I thought it would be better to go back to school for lessons, so I came back." The two of them walked side by side, and Wen still explained to Chun Guang. Chun Guang nodded. He had actually guessed it long ago. If he wasn't considered as an anomaly, Wen was without a doubt the number one in the world. Ouyang Tianqing was dead, Shadow Alliance was destroyed, and out of the 3 great aristocratic families, only the one family remained. If it wasn't for the fact that she wholeheartedly pursued a higher level of martial arts, Wen wouldn't have pursued a higher level of martial arts. With her personality, it was natural for her to choose to go back to school. Perhaps, on the day she graduated, she, as the sect master of the one family, would even be like a normal graduate. She would plunge into the workplace with a playful mood and continue to experience the life of a white-collar worker. This wasn't strange at all. She was such a person. Chun Guang asked, "Aren't you going to ask me why I'm going back to school?" Wen stopped in her tracks and turned back to look at him. "There's no need to ask. What I think, isn't that what you think too? What's the difference between you and me?" With that said, she suddenly stepped on his foot, and then ran off like the wind, shouting, "I'm in the 2nd building. You're in the 1st building, 508. Hurry up. Let's go for skewers after school tonight." She ran with great joy. No one could understand her joy. To be able to meet Chun Guang on the first day of school, and this wasn't even arranged by the two of them, but purely by chance. This kind of fate was simply too wonderful for words. Besides, she was also happy about something else. Today, she walked beside Chen Guang for so long. Although the abnormality in her dantian was still strong, she could barely suppress it. This meant that she could finally be with him normally in the future. Her legs were a little wet, but fortunately, her relatives had just come today, so it wouldn't leak out, nor would it wet her pants. Chen Guang felt a dull pain from being stepped on. Looking at Wenwen's back that was like a happy little bunny, he suddenly realized, perhaps the person he saw before was not the real her. Now she was carefree, not like a peerless master at all. She was not the sect master of the one family who had killed countless people with her own hands, holding a black knife, stained with blood, and killing without blinking an eye. She was just a happy female university student. She had experienced a lot of things and suffered a lot of hardships. Wasn't she the same? Born in an aristocratic family like the one family, she received the most cruel and harsh training since she was a child. She didn't even have the right to choose her friends and her own life. Later, she encountered a big change, and her family became a mess. Her father was poisoned, her elders died, and there were internal and external troubles. Now she finally made it through. Even though she was a peerless genius who was second only to him in hundreds of years, what she really liked was not martial arts. She just wanted to live like an ordinary girl. In this regard, she was right. He was quite similar to her. Didn't he come back to study? His parents' mixed doubles was just an excuse. The real reason why he was standing here with his backpack was not complicated at all. I like it here. I just want to live a relaxed and carefree life like this. There's no reason. I'm happy. Wenwen had already run out of sight, but the smile on her face when she turned and ran away was still clear in his eyes. Chen Guang gradually clenched his fists as he raised his head to look at the sky. The autumn sun that had just risen not long ago hung in the sky, but it was a little misty, which made him feel a little heavy. He did not want to admit that the reason why he was so anxious to give up his official position and return to an ordinary life was because he wanted to quickly pass the test of the Heavenly Holy Grail. He wanted the Heavenly Holy Grail to advance to the next level so that he could become the true master of the Holy Grail. In fact, ever since the end of the second world of punishment, he had been unable to get rid of the pressure in his heart. He had an ominous premonition. After becoming a martial saint, he was affected by the chi of heaven and earth, and this feeling was even more obvious. Although the power of the Holy Grail that filled the sky and the earth was still thin, it was continuously becoming stronger. Chen Guang lowered his head and looked at the cup in his hand. He clearly knew that the change was happening, but he was powerless to stop it. In short, I relied on you to protect me in the past. But now I am stronger than you. I don't know what will happen in the future, but this time, I will protect the smile on your face. Chen Guang finally came back to class. In an instant, this explosive news spread throughout the entire Jinhuan Academy. Before his butt even touched the chair in the classroom, someone had already sent out a message. Yo, Brother Guang, what a rare guest. As soon as Chen Guang sat down, Bai Nyangzi ridiculed him in a strange tone. Chen Guang spread out his hands. Stop talking nonsense. Where's my share? Bai Nyangzi looked confused. What share? Chen Guang said righteously, the share of selling my autographed photo. Chapter 941. Unexpectedly, as soon as he asked this question, the faces of Lin Jingwei, White Lady, and Bramble all darkened, just like a beaten eggplant. Xiong'er waved his hand. Don't talk about it. There were people who bought it in the beginning, but most of them were girls, so we happily sold some. But your reputation on the internet got worse, and there were too many people slandering you. Even the girls stopped buying it. Bai Nyangzi snorted. That's right. We even advertised it to ward off evil spirits, but we still couldn't sell it. Lin Jingwei said, so, in the end, most of it was burned. Including the cost, we basically didn't make a profit in the end. Chen Guang. Thank you guys for not apologizing while burning it. You don't say, Guang bro, your photos are super useful. I got an SSR the day after I burned them. Xiong'er perfectly demonstrated what it meant to be crazy and courting death. Then he got beaten up. Halfway through the class, Lin Jingwei pulled Chen Guang over and asked, "Are you really quitting your position as the bureau chief?" Chen Guang nodded. "Yeah, I don't want to do it anymore. Sigh. My grandpa and the rest went overboard. I apologize on his behalf." "Save it. Why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong. But I understand you now. No wonder you came to Beijing to study. Your grandpa and the rest of them. Aren't they tired of living like that?" "I don't think he's tired at all. In fact, he's enjoying it. I've advised him many times to stop caring about those things and retire peacefully, but he just won't listen. If you weren't there to help him, I'm afraid that Grandpa would have been sent to the hospital." Sigh. Sigh. The two of them let out a long sigh. One was the third-generation Prince of China, and the other was the youngest vice minister in the world. Yet, they sat together in the classroom and sympathized with those old gentlemen who were addicted to politics. Things in the world were just so strange. After the first class, an uninvited guest came to the classroom and called Chen Guang out. "Vice President Han, why are you looking for me?" Chen Guang strenuously nodded his head and waved his hand at the passers-by as he spoke to Old Han. Old Han felt that this was not a good place to talk. "Why don't we talk in my office? There are so many people coming and going. You're really famous now." When he arrived at Oldman Han's office, Chen Guang realized that Oldman Han had moved. He felt that he had addressed Oldman Han wrongly. Oldman Han was no longer the vice principal but the principal of the academy. Su Lijing and Wang Ren were done for. Deputy Dean Deng, who was on Wang Ren's side, was unlucky at that time. After a semester, Dean Tong, who also wanted to cover up for Su Lijing, should have moved on and left. Naturally, it was the turn of Deputy Dean Han, who was conscientious and upright, to take over. It had not been easy for him. He had endured for most of his life and had finally made a name for himself. In the end, before he could congratulate Old Han, the old man threw him a piece of bad news. He was going to get a demerit. "Little Chun, it's like this. Although you're doing music, making movies, and participating in all kinds of competitions, you're indeed bringing glory to the country and the school. Our school is also proud of you, but almost everyone in the school knows that you're still a student. Previously, the counselor asked you if you wanted to take a leave of absence, but you didn't want to, So what? Since the start of the semester, you've called for a total of 39 times. 5 of them, people took turns answering for you. Even Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ye answered for you. Alright, of course, they all saw through you. You didn't show up for the other 34 times. If we don't do something, we won't be able to explain to the other students. After the incident with Su Lijing and Wang Ren, our school is under a lot of pressure. At the beginning of this semester, the principal said to rectify the academic atmosphere, and you're so conspicuous. Sigh. I'm feeling bitter. Vice President Han, just tell me what difficulties you have. Hey, Chen Guang, how about this? The school will give you a demerit, okay? Of course, I won't force you. If you're not willing, I won't mention it again. I'll explain to the school leaders. You're the face of our school now. Even if there are some rumors, we can handle it. Looking at the old man's sincere and pleading expression, Chen Guang was really embarrassed to refuse him. However, he was also unwilling. In fact, he had skipped classes in the past, but he had never encountered any demerits. Unfortunately, a tall tree attracts the wind. Times are different from the past. He knew that he was very eye-catching now. It wasn't strange at all to be picked out as a model. The school's intention was also very obvious. They wanted to put on a show for others. Did you see that? Our school is so strict that even celebrities don't have special privileges. All right. It's not impossible for me to cooperate, but I have a request. Okay, say it. Chen Guang rolled his eyes and said, I reckon that I'll have to skip a lot of classes at the end of this semester. My request is simple. Just this one demerit will do. But if I skip classes again, you can't hold me back. Old Han was a little hesitant. Chen Guang didn't want to comply. Vice President Han, don't ask for too much. It's not that I don't want to go to class on purpose. It's just that I often have other important things to do. There's no other way. How about this? I can promise you one thing. Anyway, I promise I won't fail any classes this semester. Okay? Although I'm not in school, I won't fall behind in self-study. Didn't you see that I passed all the makeup subjects last semester? When old Han heard this, he recalled the matter reported by the teacher. At the start of the semester, Chun Guang's makeup test results were quite strange. One moment he got full marks, the next moment he passed the passing line. He was so crazy that he couldn't even find any evidence of him cheating. Are your makeup test results real? He asked doubtfully. Chun Guang smiled confidently. Vice President Han, Chun Guang, might not be righteous enough in other matters, but when it comes to exams, I definitely have a clear conscience. Chun Guang would definitely not admit that he had asked Nicosia to take the exam on his behalf. There weren't many decent men like him who were willing to spend faith points to exchange for the special training in a cup just for a mere exam. Alright, then it's settled. As long as you don't fail the final exam, I'll grant you the privilege. But if you fail, then just give me a detention. Old Han was a little speechless. Since when could detention be used in such a way? Forget it, I won't argue with him. I'm Chun Guang. At noon, Chun Guang, Sun Xiaoxuan, Gao Ye, and Lin Jingwei ran along the streets and ate a hearty meal of Dapan chicken. Now that he was not short of money, he personally treated them to a welcoming party to celebrate his successful return to school. In the afternoon, an announcement that shocked the campus was directly published on Gokyo University's campus website, Azure Starry Sky. Chun Guang, one of the 5 brightest stars in the country and even the world, the almighty Superman, was given a demerit. The reason for his demerit was even more unbelievable. He actually skipped class. There were countless people who skipped class in the school, but there was no reason for him to be one of them. Although the management this semester was stricter, many people were given demerits. But there were even more people who didn't even go to class from the beginning to the end, especially when he was a relatively relaxed 4th year. Most importantly, he was a famous person, and yet he was still caught? Why didn't he think of a way to get in through the back door? As soon as the news came out, Bai Nyangzi, who was enthusiastically browsing the web on his phone, saw it. Brother Guang, good news. Get lost. You've been given a demerit. Go and play with your balls. Chun Guang also did not expect old Han to be such a scammer. He only said that he would be given a demerit, but he did not say that he would announce it to the whole school. I've been King scammed. I accidentally became famous. How embarrassing. Forget it. Fortunately, my parents are still traveling abroad, and they probably won't see this. Some things really can't be thrown up randomly. Just as he was thinking about this, his father called. Chun Guang's heart skipped a beat. Can't be, right? What a coincidence. The call connected, and it was his father's voice. Young man, you did well. Come. Stretch your head over. I'll give you a red blessing. He did not know what his father had learned abroad, but the moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to give him a red blessing. Dad, why did you call me? What are you talking about? How have you been recently? He decided to use the strategy of avoiding the topic. Chun Guoli snorted. Not much. I just got off the plane, and I saw your good news. You're very good at your studies, and you've even gotten a demerit. Damn, it was indeed a flag raised. Chun Guang was not afraid of other people, but he could not do anything to his parents. He could not tell his father that he was once a deputy minister, and the reason he skipped classes was to save the world. He could not say it out loud, for fear of getting beaten up. Dad, it's a long story. Forget it, I won't talk to you anymore. You're not young anymore, and you should graduate next year and start working. It's time for you to be sensible. I'll help you hide this for now. Your mother still doesn't know about it, but you better take care of yourself later. We just got off the plane, and we had planned to come to school to have a meal with you before going back to our hometown. But it looks like it's not a good time now. I'll think of a way to bring the whole family back. Chun Guang laughed. Dad, you're the one who dotes on me. What else can I do? I'm not doting on you. I'm doting on your mother. I'm the only one who can take a beating. If I were your mother, I would have gotten Parkinson's disease long ago. That's true, that's true. Be careful on the way back. After hanging up, Chun Guang let out a long sigh of relief. He had dodged a bullet and almost got screwed over by old Han. Brother Guang, did your father just say he's going to give you a red buff? Bai Nyangzi was being cheap again. When he begged Qin Guang to help him promote books on Weibo, he kissed him like a grandson. But after the matter was over, he kept on being cheap and sly. Later on, when he needed someone's help, he could lower his pride and beg humbly, so that no one would be angry at him. Chun Guang decisively gave him a black buff. After school, Sun Xiaoxuan wanted to ask Chen Guang out for a movie, but by the time she got up, Chen Guang was already out of sight. Gao Ye felt indignant for Sun Xiaoxuan. This guy must be up to no good again. Don't you care about him? Sun Xiaoxuan became calm. I don't care about him. Why? Because he always has a reason to do things. I think he's always right. Gao Ye stared at her, dumbfounded. She sucked in a breath of cold air. Oh my God, you're so blind. No, you're not blind anymore. You're blind. Chapter 942. In fact, Chun Guang and Wenwen didn't do anything special. They said they were eating skewers, and they were really just eating skewers. Originally, he wanted to go to the internet cafe to play a few games with them. However, considering that he was getting more and more famous, eating skewers with a beauty on the street was shocking enough. If he went to the internet cafe to play games, he would probably be surrounded by people. On the other hand, Wenwen didn't want to stay with him for too long. She found that although she could handle the situation in her dantian for a while, after sitting with this guy for a long time, the strange feeling in her heart would become stronger and stronger as time went by, until it was difficult to suppress. Today, she didn't want to be eaten up by Chen Guang, so she ate more than 300 skewers in a few bites. Then, she used the excuse of going back to the nursing home to see her father, got up and ran away. Under the stunned gaze of the boss, Chun Guang gave him more than 800 yuan and drove to the company. More than a day had passed, and the matter of the play had progressed a lot. Yang Shi was also a big shot in the industry. With him around, it was much easier to find actors. Now, the actors had basically been selected. They were coming from all over the country, and they would all be here by the day after tomorrow at the latest. The script for Thunderstorm was ready-made, but it involved copyright issues, so Lu Xiaoliang had already gone out to handle it. On the other hand, for the sake of Chun Guang, it wasn't difficult to cut the queue and find a theater in Wujing. As for the costumes and props, they found a company that Chen Guang was familiar with. It was the company that had bought his armor and then sent it back to him. Until now, Chun Guang still remembered the name of the boss of Iris's flower company, Hao Yukai. He had a deep impression of him. Okay, since you're almost done, I won't ask anymore. Chun Guang was extremely satisfied with the efficiency of the company. There was strength in numbers, and this was the benefit of it. Brother Chun, don't you want to read the script first? Yang Shi held the freshly printed script in his hand and shook it in front of Chun Guang. Chun Guang waved his hand indifferently. No need. I'll read it before I go on stage. Yang Shi knew his ability. Seeing that he wasn't in the mood to read it, he didn't rush him. That's fine. Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu were stunned by the conversation between the two. At first, he thought that Director Yang was an old acquaintance and would more or less be able to restrain CEO Chun and make him pay more attention. It turned out that the two of them were jackals of the same tribe. After Chun Guang was gone, Fang Tianyu asked Yang Shi anxiously, Director Chun, is he really a man? Yang Shi didn't explain and just smiled mysteriously. Don't worry, Don Chen's Chen. Don't worry, Chan Chen's name. However, Yang Shi wasn't willing to speak any further. He thought to himself, what kind of joke is this? I'm here with Chun Guang to win without doing anything. The next day, Chun Guang did not intend to go to the company, but he still went to the city in the afternoon. There was a big shot. Sitting in the office, Chun Guang looked at this person who was said to be from the Rising Sea Insurance Group. For some reason, he felt that this person's words were a little unbelievable. If he isn't messing with me, then there must be someone else behind this. He actually said that he wanted to invest in Tianguang Brokerage on behalf of Rising Sea Insurance Group. Based on Chen Guang's personality, he wouldn't be interested in letting others invest in his company, even if he knew that it was a profitable business. Isn't it obvious that he's sharing the money with others? However, he was a little tempted this time. The reason was that he couldn't refuse the offer from Mr. Rao. According to Mr. Rao, the Rising Sea Insurance Group, he represented valued Tianguang brokerage at 10 billion yuan. The investment plan he proposed was even more insane. An investment of 1 billion yuan would dilute the company's total share capital. The Rising Sea Fund would hold 5% of the company's shares, and Chen Guang and Tang Jie Fund's shares would be reduced in proportion. Chen Guang's shares would be changed to 76%, and Tang Jie Fund's shares would be changed to 19%. This matter was complicated, and there might be a long process in the middle, but the final result was about the same. What kind of spirit did Mr. Rao have? It was the spirit of international humanitarian aid. It was a great feeling that didn't ask for anything in return, but something to give. Chen Guang couldn't believe it. The only valuable thing about my empty shell company is my almighty superhuman brand. If one day my reputation is ruined, or if I get tired of the entertainment industry and don't want to work anymore, Tianguang brokerage will instantly fall into an awkward situation where it can't make any profits. That's right, my profitability is quite strong, but the entire company doesn't have a complete system and doesn't have enough IP reserves. There's no reason for it to be valued at 10 billion yuan. What's more, according to the Rising Sea Fund's investment, Tianguang brokerage has a premium of 20 billion yuan. Are you stupid? What ability does the old man have to give me money like this? I'm a little nervous. Mr. Rao, your proposal looks very tempting, but I don't understand why. I really don't think Tianguang brokerage is worth this price. Chen Guang placed Rao Zhenghai's proposal to the side and pressed his hands on the mahogany desk. As he spoke, he subconsciously leaned forward to give Rao Zhenghai the illusion that he was tempted. The other party was an old fox in the business world, and the bait was too tempting. Chen Guang subconsciously felt that something was wrong. He had to be on guard. He wanted to make Rao Zhenghai feel that he was naive and see if he would reveal his fox's tail. Mr. Chen, you're belittling yourself. Tianguang brokerage has only been established for a few months, and you've already made hundreds of millions in profits. You've already proven the value of Tianguang brokerage. The cultural industry is booming now, and the pie will only get bigger and bigger in the future. However, companies like Tianguang brokerage that can maintain a good profit rate during such rapid growth are still rare. Other companies that operate copyrights are mostly in the stage of financing and burning money for copyrights. You're already one step ahead of the others. Furthermore, Mr. Chen, you're different from other celebrities. There's still a lot of value to be excavated from you. I'm sure that you have more than what you've shown so far. You might not know this, but before the Olympics, there was a swimmer with the surname Ning. According to some evaluation agencies, his personal IP value could reach 20 billion. Mr. Chen, you're only higher than him. Some WeChat public accounts and even Poppy-chan, whose content creation ability is not as good as yours, can be valued at more than 1 billion. I've valued Tianguang brokerage at 10 billion, so it's reasonable to increase it to 20 billion. Chen Guang was almost convinced by him. According to Mr. Rao, money was not being spent as money nowadays. Billions and billions were being spent at every turn. Did he think they were burning hell's money? Comrade, you can't stop using fake drugs. Those who truly understood the industry knew that the cultural industry had been bragging to the heavens. Even Little Tsong's bamboo livestream was no longer burning money for live streamers. During the craziness of the first half of the year, any lousy live streamer would sign a contract fee of 100 million for a few years, or 30 million for a year. In the end, it was the end of the year now, and it was time to settle the bills. Those who owed wages were owed wages, and those who were slaves of different surnames were all over the streets. That meant that the bubble was about to burst, and the money couldn't be burned anymore. It was easy to say that traffic could turn into cash, but was it really a stump for countless heroes to achieve? The click-through rate of online television dramas depended on it. It also depended on it to increase its popularity and topicality. It also depended on it to increase its box office earnings. It also depended on it to increase the number of viewers and bullet screen comments in the livestream rooms. Everything was fake prosperity. It only depended on the advertising sponsors who were stupid and rich to pay the bills. But there were many smart people in this world, and there were even fewer fools who could make money and afford sky-high advertising fees. Everyone had a clear idea of how much this so-called traffic flow was worth. Also, the Chinese Super League, which not many people in the country watched at all, was easily offered transfer fees of tens of millions of dollars to big foreign brands, with annual salaries of hundreds of millions. In the end, the stadium's occupancy rate was less than 50%, and the jerseys and other peripheral products couldn't be sold at all. They only had the ability to spend money, but not the ability to generate revenue. What right did they have to raise such sky-high prices? The rights to the live stream of the Chinese Super League, which had no ratings at all, could still be sold for more than $1 billion a year. The balloons in the sky were blown bigger than the sun, ready to explode at any moment. It was as if all the money printing machines in the country had been turned on overnight, and trillions of dollars had fallen from the sky. Where did this money come from? Was it born out of thin air? Outsiders might not be aware of this, but Chen Guang could be considered as someone in the industry, not to mention that he was the strongest internet celebrity in the country. So how could he not understand that this was all hype? It was all a bubble that would explode sooner or later. Perhaps it might happen tomorrow, or perhaps it might last for another year. When the noise passed, the real companies that were good at content and diligent in operation, and took one step at a time, would have the last laugh. At that time, countless speculative capitalists would cry in the corner, and countless retail investors would cry their hearts out. It wasn't hard to guess. Rao Zhenghai wasn't an ignorant bystander. He was the chairman of the Rising Sea Insurance Fund. Whether it was his vision or his identity, he stood at the top of the national financial pyramid, and it was impossible for him not to understand this. There was nothing wrong with him having the idea of setting up an internet celebrity economy, but there was no reason for him to take out $1 billion so easily just to get 5% of his shares. Tianguang Brokerage was just a personal brokerage company built around an omnipotent Superman. It didn't have any core technology or real industrial reserves, so it wasn't worth this money at all. Mr. Rao, I understand what you're saying, but let's not beat around the bush in front of an honest person. You and I both know it. What is your real purpose? Chen Guang leaned back, and he finally put away the facade of an ignorant young man. With a faint smile on his face, he looked at Rao Zhenghai meaningfully. Rao Zhenghai was stunned at first, and he was stunned for a long time. Just like that, in his eyes, Chen Guang's aura changed drastically in an instant. He turned from a rash young man to an old fox who understood the world. He remembered an old man's instructions to him before he came down. He must not underestimate Chen Guang, and must not treat him like an ordinary young man. Just now, he didn't take the old man's warning seriously. At that time, Chen Guang pretended to be calm, but in fact he was eager to try. In his eyes, it was slightly ridiculous. After all, young people were still a little immature and not shrewd enough. But now he knew that he was wrong. This cunning fellow, he was acting within an act just now, and he was completely led into it. Looks like I have to tell the truth. Mr. Chen, since you've already thought of it, then I'll tell the truth. Actually, this isn't my idea, it's a request from the higher-ups. They feel that it's necessary to give you some compensation. As Rao Zhenghai said that, he pointed to the sky mysteriously. Chen Guang suddenly laughed. Actually, he had this idea just now, and he had already thought of it. Although he was the one who took the initiative to resign in the end, the old men were still afraid that he would lose his position as the bureau chief, and they knew that he loved money. They were even more worried that if the bureau couldn't control the situation in the future, they would still have to ask him to step in. They were afraid that he would really become a wild crane that didn't care about the world. That was why they came up with this idea. They purposely gave Tianguang Brokerage a high valuation, and then arranged for a fund with a powerful background to buy the investment. On the surface, it was free money, but in the dark, it made him owe them a favor, and he couldn't get away. Actually, he knew that he should have had a tacit understanding with the other party, and he shouldn't have forced him to say it. However, he was already tired of scheming with the old men. Now that he had asked Rao Zhenghai to tell the truth, Rao Zhenghai would pass on the content of the conversation between the two of them to the higher-ups. This was also his way of showing his attitude. Don't play tricks with me anymore. It's very annoying. Mr. Rao, then please thank them for me. Let me think about this for another 2 days, and I'll give you an accurate answer. After Chen Guang laughed, his face darkened, and his knuckles rhythmically knocked on the table, and he said word by word. Rao Zhenghai took a deep breath, and he was really shocked this time. It's almost like giving you 1 billion for free, and you still want to think about it. Chapter 943. When Rao Zhenghai left the Lida building and returned to the hotel, he was still in a daze. Back then, when he was asked to use Shanghai's funds to invest in a mere internet celebrities company, he was extremely against it. However, the higher-ups were too determined and more or less revealed to him that the owner of Tianguang Brokerage, Chen Guang, was an extraordinary person. It would be a miracle if he could be roped in with money. Otherwise, the price he would have to pay would be unimaginably heavy. At the very least, he would have to take out power that was close to the Hall of Treasure to satisfy him. At that time, Rao Zhenghai was shocked and finally agreed to this seemingly unreasonable request. He felt sorry for himself. Other people who played with the internet celebrity economy were actually playing with capital bubbles. They would easily blow up the bubble, but in reality, the amount of money that was actually taken out might not be that much. It might not even be their own money. Who would be like him, taking out such a huge amount of real money to give money to others? Before coming here, he had also done a very detailed assessment of Chen Guang's company. It was undeniable that although Tianguang Brokerage had only been established for less than half a year, and they were always doing things that were unreliable, their profitability was indeed terrifying. It was indeed a miracle that this company could accomplish such a feat with such a small size. Chen Guang himself was considered a genius in the business world. Every time people thought that he was going to lose money, he ended up making a lot of money. It was said that every time he did an event, he would say to the public that he didn't want to make money and that he didn't want to make money at all. However, he didn't lack money. Just based on the terrifying profitability of Tianguang Brokerage, the company's valuation was indeed much higher than its cash flow. From the professional perspective of Rao Zhenghai and his team, a valuation of 2 billion to 3 billion was acceptable. If it was more than 3 billion, anyone who wanted to invest in it would be a fool with too much money. However, even if he was valued at 2 billion and invested in cash, he would have to sign a VAM agreement that would make at least 800 million to 1 billion in 5 years. If he couldn't achieve the profit target, Chen Guang would have to pay for it out of his own pocket or buy back the shares. That was the normal value of Tianguang Brokerage. It was undeniable that Chen Guang's ability to make money was very strong, but his company had only been established for a short period of time. Other than hosting events, his profit model was not clear enough, and he did not have any ability to make money. Apart from Chen Guang himself, there was nothing else. The reason why Tianguang Agency could develop so smoothly was largely due to Chen Guang's individual performance and luck. There were still many uncertainties in this startup company, which indirectly pulled down its market value. Therefore, in Rao Zhenghai's heart, his valuation and asking price were no different from that of a child giving away money. But he was rejected. After Chen Guang sent Rao Zhenghai off, he called Yu Hong and a few other middle-level leaders to his office and told them about what he had just discussed with Rao Zhenghai. As Tang Xiaokai's confidant in the Tang Jie Foundation, Yu Hong quickly guessed the truth. Although he did not know the reason, there was no doubt that someone in Beijing wanted to give him money for free. This time, it was even more outrageous than the last time. The Tang Jie Fund had paid for the bill the last time, but this time, the Rising Sea Insurance Company, which was in charge of paying the bill, had directly increased the amount by nearly 10 times. Is our Mr. Chen the descendant of the previous emperor? Is this a recruitment fee? This is ridiculous. However, Yu Hong did not find it strange that Chen Guang did not immediately agree to Rising Sea's Mr. Rao's request. There must be some reasons that people of his level did not have the right to know. However, Fang Tianyu, Lu Xiaoyang, and Su Li were completely dumbfounded. Rao Zhenghai, who was giving the money, might not be fully awake and was sleepwalking, or perhaps there was something wrong with his brain. However, Our Mr. Chun is not inferior to Mr. Rao at all. They're on par with each other. Mr. Chun, you can't do that. I don't understand. Fong Tianyu was dumbfounded. Lu Xiaoliang nearly jumped up. Mr. Chun, I know I shouldn't say much about this, but I still don't understand. Rising Sea only wants 5% of the shares, but they're giving 1 billion in cash. If this is true, there's no reason for them to reject it. Suli said from his professional point of view, although our company's financial situation is very good now, and there are no signs of needing financing in the short term, it's never a bad thing to have more money. Plus, it's 1 billion. Oh my God. Suli, who usually did not speak nonsense, could not help but add, oh my God, this time. Although he looked calm on the surface, he could not hide his emotions. Chen Guang had wanted to ask for their opinions, but seeing this, he knew that there was no need for him to say anything. They could not give the answer they wanted. In fact, they could not even understand the hesitation in their hearts. I should have asked someone else. They did not know that he was once the director of the General Bureau and could not consider the whole picture. Forget it, don't worry about this first. How's the discussion for the play going? Chen Guang had a general understanding of the live broadcast of the play and the sponsorship. The live broadcast was still bamboo, but the live broadcast on TV had become the Mango channel that he used to dislike. On account of their high price and willingness to pay, since the contract had already been signed, he would forget about it this time. The sponsorship was not as good as he had imagined. He only managed to get a total of 2 companies, which did not even add up to 10 million. On one hand, it was not convenient to insert advertisements in the live broadcast of the play. On the other hand, the frequency of his activities was a little too high. The bosses were almost out of money. Now that his net worth had reached a certain level, sometimes he would rather not accept the offer than to lower the price easily. In layman's terms, lowering the price would harm his status, which was not beneficial to his long-term profits. Sitting in the car, Chen Guang racked his brains. Who should he talk to about this? He also wanted Rao Xinghai's money. That was 1 billion. He had no qualms about taking it. However, he also felt uncomfortable. He always felt that the value of his company in the future might not only stop at the level of 20 billion yuan. In this way, it was still possible that Rao Zhenghai and his Rising Sea insurance company would make money, so he was not very happy. He could not help but complain in his heart. These old men are so unreasonable. If they want to give me money, they can just give me money. Why do they have to target my shares? Although 5% was not much, no matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. In the future, the mosquito would mutate and become a huge steak. Moreover, once he took the money, it meant that he had accepted their goodwill, and he would be tied to these people again. He was really quite annoying. However, it seemed like as long as Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan were still in the Guangdong General Administration, he would not be able to escape as the retired general director. No matter how resolute he sounded, if the 2 little Lolas were in trouble, could he not care less? It seemed like it did not matter whether he took the money or not. Unknowingly, as his thoughts ran wild, he thought of a rather reliable candidate. She was an expert, knew the ways of doing business, and knew his special identity. Most importantly, he had not seen her for some time, and he missed her from time to time. Yes, the candidate was Lu Fei. As soon as he called, he was elated. What a coincidence. Lu Fei had just returned from the neighboring Wutua town yesterday, and she was about to look for him. After meeting Lu Fei at a cafe, Chen Guang went out excitedly. When he arrived at the private room, Lu Fei was already waiting for him inside. I saw that you usually drink tea, so I didn't order coffee for you. When I just came over, I brought a packet of Longjing tea from my father's friend. You can drink it yourself. Chen Guang took the tea box from Lu Fei, carefully grabbed a small handful from inside, and threw it into the Tongtian Holy Grail. Then he happily made a pot of water. His nose was full of the fresh and tranquil tea fragrance. Longjing tea is such a good thing. What do you mean by drink it yourself? I even drink Humao Feng tea. Didn't you just call to ask me something? Say it. Lu Fei took a sip of coffee, rested her chin on her elbow, and looked at Chen Guang with her head tilted. Chen Guang was not the same as the people in her circle. Just like this Longjing tea, it was a good thing, but she would never take it out of her house for others to drink. Other people might have their own channels to get it, but they would never be like Chen Guang. He was clearly worth hundreds of millions and had a high position of power, but he still looked so precious and happy. Lu Fei felt that Chen Guang was not pretending to be happy to please her, but he was really happy. As for others, even Zhong Bai and Wang Qing, who had a particularly good relationship with each other, would never be happy for such a small thing. They were used to that kind of extravagant life. Even if they also showed such cheerful expressions, it was most likely to be to make her happy. Lu Fei felt that Chen Guang was particularly real, but at the same time particularly mysterious. His driving skills were the first thing that attracted her, but after knowing him for a long time, Lu Fei found that Chen Guang seemed to be omnipotent. Later, she learned that he was a living magician in his previous life. His entire body was filled with a sense of mystery and indescribable charm. But the rarest thing about him was that no matter how his status changed, he maintained a rare heart. You wouldn't be able to find such a man even if you searched for a lantern. Why are you distracted? I'm done. Chen Guang patted her on the shoulder. Lu Fei came back to her senses, ran her fingers through her hair in embarrassment, and grinned. I'm sorry, I was fascinated by you. Chen Guang. I'll give you 118 points for this reason of being in a daze. The full score is 100 points, and the extra 18 points will be divided into 3 sixes. He repeated it to Lu Fei again. This time, Lu Fei listened carefully. She was not in a hurry to answer Chen Guang, but used her fingers to play with the spoon in the coffee cup. Chen Guang did not rush her, and blew on his tea. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes passed. 15 minutes. Okay, almost. Lu Fei suddenly looked up at Chen Guang. I'll take it. Chen Guang nodded. Okay. Chapter 944. Ah, you're not even going to ask me why? You definitely won't harm me. I can't make a decision. You know better than me. If you think it's time to take it, then take it. So infuriating. I've just come up with a whole bunch of reasons to convince you. Chen Guang snappily said, Since I'm here to ask for your opinion, you help me decide. Why do you need to convince me? Lu Fei fiercely looked at him. You're really lazy. Chen Guang chuckled. This is not me being lazy. This is called knowing people well. If I don't have to use my brain, why do I have to be so tired? I have to spend my energy on other things. That's true. You're a great magister. You're a bureau chief. Oh, you're no longer one now. Don't you want to know why I suggested you take it? Also, there's actually another way to take it. Say it. Chen Guang didn't want to dampen her enthusiasm. Well, first of all, you also want this money, right? Although I don't know what you want, I always feel that your ability to spend money is as good as your ability to earn money. In fact, capital is like this. Forever relying on your own money to do business. That's the experience of the older generation. It's no longer applicable in this era. Capital has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's in line with the laws of the modern economy. In this matter, that Tang Shaokai is the best among our younger generation. Then you don't want others to take advantage of you. Even if it's only 5% of the shares, you don't want to share your results with people you don't know in the future. After all, at that time, maybe this 5% of the shares will be worth more. In addition, although you took the initiative to give up the bureau chief position, you're unhappy because of this matter. You also feel at ease taking the compensation they give you. In summary, whether it's for the development of the company or for your own comfort, you have to take this money. Chen Guang nodded. That's the reason. Lu Fei suddenly smiled wickedly. So, this is the solution I came up with. 5% of the shares will be given to them, but not to the Tianguang agency that you and Tang Shaokai are working with. Instead, you will set up another subsidiary of Tianguang agency. It will be financially independent from the current Tianguang agency, but the management will be like a parent and subsidiary company. The name will be Tianguang Culture. Tianguang Media is good at everything. On the one hand, if you let Rising Ocean Corporation invest in Tianguang brokerage, you'll be making money, and the company will have a large amount of cash flow. However, the 19% of shares that Tang Xiaokai occupies will appreciate too quickly and too easily. On the other hand, your foundation is Tianguang Agency. If you're unhappy in the future, you can turn Tianguang Culture or Tianguang Media into an empty shell. Of to Tianguang Agency. Most people to say to ordinary. Ordinary, not to you. However, your situation is special. Tang Xiaokai will definitely not object. In fact, he doesn't care about the benefits of investing in you. As for Rising Sea, no matter how harsh your conditions are, it won't be a problem. Since he came to you, he must have accepted a mission. The people in Beijing only care about whether the money will be delivered to you in a reasonable manner. This way, the people in Beijing will be more satisfied. Rao Zhenghai of Rising Sea has no choice. He will think of a way to explain to the other shareholders of Rising Sea. Even if he pays from his own pocket or seeks funding from others, he will find the money for you. Chun Guang's eyes gradually brightened. He asked, "Can the parent company and the subsidiary company be completely financially independent?" Lu Fei raised her eyebrows. Of course, they're both independent legal entities. However, because of you, they added an agreement that temporarily allows the subsidiary company to be completely controlled by the parent company. Actually, they're two relatively independent entities. Actually, you can let Tianguang Agency control part of the subsidiary company. However, in principle, you and Tang Xiaokai would have to inject a certain amount of capital. It's meaningless. Instead, Tang Xiaokai would take advantage of you. I have another question. If I set up an empty subsidiary company and take 1 billion yuan from Rao Zhenghai and only give him 5%, they'll still have to say something about it, right? Lu Fei rolled her eyes. Idiot. Can't you just buy some IP to put on a show? Besides, aren't you already the most popular IP in the country? You're so smart. It's enough to have a confidant in life. Why don't you help me? Lu Fei shook her head violently. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in your petty tricks. Chen Guang was angry that he was being looked down upon. However, on second thought, the person in front of him could buy a Porsche 918. She was a hidden tycoon with a family worth more than 10 billion US dollars. It seemed like this was just a petty trick to her. After dinner, Chen Guang and Lu Fei went their separate ways. It wasn't that they didn't have any ideas, but Lu Fei had to fly to the sea at night. She was busier than Chen Guang. When Rao Zhenghai received Chen Guang's call, it was already past 8 at night. After hearing Chen Guang's request, Rao Zhenghai felt that he had wasted half of his life doing business. You really have a big heart. You think you're losing out by buying 5% of your shares for 1 billion? Can you be a little more reasonable? I can't even get the shares of your parent company, yet you're setting up a wholly owned subsidiary company and giving me 5%? How can you be so shameless? How can you be so shameless? How can I explain this to the other shareholders of Rising Sea? Unfortunately, Chen Guang didn't seem interested in negotiating with him at all. In any case, this matter was settled. Can you handle it or accept it? Let's do it. If you can't handle it, I won't rely on your money to live. We'll go our separate ways. Chen Guang didn't say it clearly, but his meaning was clear. No matter how angry Rao Zhenghai was, he could only report it as it was. On the way back to the office, Chen Guang received an unexpected call. It was from Old Master Jean. Chen Guang chatted with him briefly. Old Master Jean didn't reveal too much to him. He was just concerned about Chen Guang's current mental state. He was afraid that Chen Guang had a hard time getting over it. Chen Guang didn't like other old masters, but Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye's grandfather had been helping him from the beginning. He couldn't be cold to him, so he spoke politely to him. Before hanging up, Old Master Jin hinted to Chen Guang about Shanghai. Old Master Jin must have received Rao Zhenghai's report and called to dispel Chen Guang's concerns. Chen Guang pretended not to understand, so he didn't explain it to him. However, Chen Guang knew that Rao Zhenghai had lowered his head at the speed of light. Perhaps Old Master Jean was the one who instructed Rao Zhenghai to do this. However, they would never understand. Although Chen Guang loved money, he was no longer as attractive to him when he had money to a certain extent. It was already 9 p.m. when he arrived at the office. Su Li had already gotten off work, and Lu Xiaoyang was still working on the copyrights. Chen Guang called Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu, who were still working overtime, to his office and announced his decision to them. After some discussion, the subsidiary company would be named Tianguang Media. It would still be Chen Guang's legal representative. It would be an empty shell for the time being. The specific arrangements were left to Yu Hong and Fang Tianyu. Chen Guang would be the one to do it. Since Lu Xiaoyang was also working on the copyrights, Chen Guang didn't want to waste his energy. He called Lu Xiaoyang and told him to buy some copyrights when he was free. It didn't matter if it was variety shows, animations, or American dramas. He could even buy some of the copyrights for web novels. Other than a certain book called Billionaire Young Master's Cruel and Doting Wife, Please Love Me 1001 Times, everything else was fine. After buying these copyrights, they would all be placed under Tianguang Media. As for the funds needed for the acquisition, they would discuss the project for the time being. When Rao Zhenghai was done with the matter and sent the money to them, they would immediately start work. After that, Chen Guang called Tang Xiaokai, who was far away overseas. Actually, he didn't need to specifically communicate with Tang Xiaokai about this. However, Tang Xiaokai had given him money and people in the early stages of his business. He was very kind. Now, he had to make things clear and let him understand that he had no intention of abandoning him to avoid any future conflicts. Tang Xiaokai was a sensible person. Although Chen Guang's actions had caused Tang Jie Fund to make a lot less money in a certain sense, he didn't expect to make a return on his investment in Tianguang Media. He hadn't even lost all his money yet. Instead, his investment of $20 million had increased a few times in value. That was already a pleasant surprise. Besides, Shanghai's decision had nothing to do with him. It was the higher-ups who wanted to send money to Chen Guang through another channel. Tang Xiaokai was actually glad that he didn't have to take the blame again. In the end, Tang Xiaokai took a roundabout approach and mentioned another matter to Chen Guang. "Brother Guang, what's going on between you and my sister recently?" Chen Guang was stunned. "What's wrong? What did Sister Ing say to you?" "Sister, brother, the two of you are so romantic." Cough, cough. "My sister didn't say anything. Wasn't she preparing her thesis when you were organizing the language conference?" "Yeah. What's wrong?" "She's already published her thesis. I found someone to publish it for her. It's published in a rather high-class journal. Recently, that journal is planning to organize an academic exchange. She didn't intend to come when they invited her, but she changed her mind on the day that the World Language Conference you organized ended. Recently, she's been busy wrapping up matters at the hospital. Did you two quarrel?" "No." "So what?" Brother Guang, it's not that I want to criticize you, but don't be fooled by my sister's cheerful appearance. She hasn't been close to many guys since she was young. As her younger brother, I don't have the right to interfere in your affairs. But since the rice has been cooked, Brother Guang, you can't go back on your words. Let me tell you, don't think that a celebrity like Jean Shuriwei is so high and mighty, but when it comes to living, my sister is still better. Think about when you're sick." Chen Guang was stunned. "The rice has been cooked? When did that happen? Why can't I remember? That's not right." There was a time when he and Tang Ying fell down together, and Tang Xiaokai, who had just returned to China, bumped into them. All right, Chen Guang thought about what happened on the plane with Tang Ying. It didn't seem that pure after all. To a certain extent, he was right. As for why Tang Ying suddenly wanted to go to America after the World Language Conference, Chen Guang naturally understood. She was hiding and pretending to be an ostrich. Despicable. No wonder she didn't call me recently. Even when I'm going to squander again, she didn't make any moves. This sister wants to go back on her words after losing the bet. Shameless. She can even go back on her words? Chen Guang looked at his watch. It was 10 p.m. He wondered if Tang Ying was still on duty at the hospital. He decided to check on her first. He didn't really want her to honor her words. Even if she wants to write off her words, he has to agree first. It's not harmonious for her to break the contract unilaterally. Chapter 945. Actually, going to the hospital to look for Tang Ying at this time was a bit of a stroke of luck. But Chen Guang didn't expect that she would actually be blocked. Just as he walked up the stairs, he saw Tang Ying hurrying out of her office in a white coat. Her hair looked a little messy, and her complexion didn't seem to be very good, looking a little pale. It seemed that she had been trying her best to clean up the mess on hand in order to escape, and it was quite tiring. She walked quickly, looking down at her phone with a frown. He didn't know what had happened to make her so anxious. Chen Guang saw that she was walking straight towards him with her head lowered, so he deliberately didn't make a sound. When she got closer, he suddenly let out a cry. "Where are you going?" "Ah!" Tang Ying let out a sharp scream. She looked up abruptly and saw that it was Chen Guang. She was instantly embarrassed and angry. "What are you doing? Are you trying to scare me to death?" Chen Guang didn't expect her to be so loud, so he hurriedly made a shushing gesture. "Lower your voice. It's midnight in the hospital, and the patients are all asleep. It's forbidden to make noise." Tang Ying gave him a dirty look. "It's all your fault. You scared me when you had nothing better to do, and now you're lecturing me." Chen Guang grinned. "It's all because you're always looking down at your phone when you're walking. People like you are the type of people who keep their heads down on the internet." Tang Ying tugged at his shirt. "Go away. Don't you know?" Chen Guang was stunned. "Don't know what? You really don't know? I thought you came because of Miss Tong. What's wrong with her? Why didn't she tell you when something happened to her?" Tang Ying said as she pulled Chen Guang to the emergency department of the inpatient department. Chen Guang followed behind, confused. He subconsciously thought that something might have happened to Wu Tong. What's going on? He was a little anxious. He knew that Wu Tong had come back to be the bureau chief. Previously, because he had to solve the problem of the internal force martial artist, he did not want to involve her, a police chief who was between an ordinary person and a related person. Therefore, when he had nothing to do, he deliberately did not contact Wu Tong to avoid arousing suspicion. Otherwise, with her overflowing sense of justice and sometimes reckless behavior, coupled with her little bit of power and connections to inquire about relevant matters, it would be troublesome if she were to follow them. Ever since the last time Chen Guang held a piano performance in Beijing, Wu Tong led a team to provide security for him. The two of them hadn't seen each other for a long time, and they rarely even called each other. Wu Tong was well aware of this. She was helpless, but there was nothing she could do. Ever since Chen Guang became the director of the Guangdong General Administration, she had also inquired about a lot of information from Wu Shan. Gradually, Wu Shan told her that what Chen Guang was facing now was beyond the level of his qualifications as the head of the department. Things had become unimaginably troublesome. If ordinary people were to get involved, on the one hand, they might encounter unimaginable dangers. On the other hand, it would also become a breakthrough point for others to threaten Chen Guang. It was precisely because she knew these things that Wu Tong deliberately kept a distance from Chen Guang on the surface. When she returned to Wujing to be the director, she simply told Chen Guang that she was back. It wasn't because she was afraid of danger. After all, being a police officer wasn't a safe job. She just didn't want to be a burden to Chen Guang, especially after she heard that he sent his family overseas. Thus, she was even more determined in her decision. Sometimes she would think that Chen Guang's growth was too fast. It was as if he was just an insignificant young man in school who still needed her protection. But in the blink of an eye, he ran a company and became the director. He suddenly rose to a height that was difficult for her to reach. The change was too fast and she was caught off guard. From time to time, when she was busy with work, Wu Tong would think about what kind of existence she was to Chen Guang. What kind of role did she play in his heart? Did he not care about her? Of course not. When she was kidnapped by the World Destroyer, her life was hanging by a thread. At that time, Chen Guang was not strong at all. He descended from the sky with his bare hands and saved her from certain death. In this world, besides him, there was no other man who could do such a thing. At that time, the two of them had only met each other a few times. They were just friends who got along well with each other. There was even a small conflict between them. Although they claimed to be sister and brother, they were not related by blood. Wu Tong even put herself in Chen Guang's shoes. When faced with such a choice, she was afraid that she would not be as brave and fearless as he was. Therefore, he definitely cared about her. But in the end, no one was perfect. This bad brother of hers also had the bad habits that his peers should have. His heart was always wandering. Fortunately, she did not expect anything. She was older than him by 5 years. It was good that they maintained their current relationship, and there was no pressure on them. Wu Tong actually vaguely knew about the destruction of the Shadow Alliance. She also knew about Chen Guang's recent movements and also knew about his resignation. These were all news that she heard from Wu Shan, who was close to the higher-ups and was the representative of the younger generation. Until now, Wu Tong had not taken the initiative to contact Chen Guang. On one hand, it was because she was busy with work. On the other hand, she knew that Chen Guang had a lot of things to do. But most importantly, she wanted to see when this heartless brat would think of her. Ever since she found out that Chen Guang had resigned, she had been counting the time every day. If this guy didn't call in another 3 days and insisted on contacting him, then he would be dead. In the end, she was unlucky. Originally, ever since she became the bureau chief, whether it was the people in the bureau or her father, Wu Shan, they were determined not to give her the opportunity to personally go to work. In order to find a chance to rush to the front line, Wu Tong had recently stopped driving to and from work. Instead, she took the subway. Even if she could only catch a thief, it would be enough to satisfy her craving. Today, she bumped into one and was immediately overjoyed. Usually, with her skills, it was too easy to deal with a thief. But today, that guy seemed to be on steroids. After she found him at the subway station, he turned around and ran extremely fast. Even with Wu Tong's top-notch stamina among the male students in Shun's special training camp, she almost couldn't catch up. Later, when she was about to catch up, that guy turned around and threw the large-screen smartphone he had just stolen at her. Why did he emphasize the large screen? It was because the phone really hurt when it hit her shoulder. But after that guy threw the phone like a cannonball, he strangely fell to the ground, foaming at the mouth and twitching. Wu Tong still managed to handcuff him with one hand. She turned around and saw that the phone that hit her shoulder was completely deformed on the ground. Her collarbone was swollen and painful. Her collarbone was actually broken by the phone that was thrown at her so close. Wu Tong was extremely shocked. She was not an ordinary person. She was well-trained and proficient in fighting. Her bones were far harder than ordinary people. And who could easily break a person's collarbone with a phone? Who could throw a phone like a cannonball with so much force? You're not Chen Guang. Wu Tong struggled to call her colleagues in the bureau to send this guy to the hospital with her. But on the way to the hospital, that guy woke up and seemed to be fine. On the way, she actually wanted to call Chen Guang and tell him that she was injured today. But she finally endured it. Since she said that she would endure it, she couldn't easily admit defeat. Do you know? Your big sis is injured. Although I don't know why she didn't tell you about it. When you see her later, you can't tell her that you came to see me. No matter how you lie, you have to say that you found out about it and came to see her. Just treat it as a way to make her happy. Tang Ying led the way in front while whispering to Chen Guang. Chen Guang nodded. Yeah, I know. I'd like to see what kind of thief was able to break Sister Wu Tong's bones. Vaguely, he suddenly realized that Tang Ying's decision to run away might not be because she wanted to renege on the bet. But he didn't say it out loud. It was meaningless. History had taught him that it was useless to overthink things. As the saying goes, the boat will cross the bridge when it comes to it. That was the right path in life. The two walked side by side into the emergency surgery consultation room. Wu Tong, who was lying on the bed with a pale face, frowned and deep in thought, suddenly turned to look at the two of them. Her face suddenly blossomed into a smile. Why are you here? Tang Ying secretly rolled her eyes. She knew it would turn out like this. The two of them had obviously come in together, but this guy who only cared about the opposite sex completely ignored her. Chen Guang hesitated for a moment. Actually, he didn't want to lie. Just now, To his surprise, Tang Ying, who was standing beside him, seemed to have seen through his thoughts and interrupted him. I bumped into him on the way here. Your little brother sure is resourceful. He found out the moment you got into trouble. Since Tang Ying had already lied, Chen Guang couldn't just turn around and expose her in front of her face. He could only chuckle. I say, you're really something. You're already a bureau chief. Why do you have to catch a thief yourself? Wu Tong raised her uninjured hand and clenched her fist. My hands are itchy. She believed what Tang Ying said. It was unlikely that Tang Ying was the one who informed Chen Guang. After all, when she arrived at the hospital, she found out that the doctor on duty was a male doctor. She didn't want him to bandage her, so she texted Tang Ying. The doctor on duty was relieved. After saying goodbye to Tang Ying, he retreated out of the treatment room and closed the door behind him. Tang Ying went to lock the treatment room door. She then turned to look at Chen Guang. She couldn't be bothered to ask for Wu Tong's opinion. She simply said, "All right, you two can stop reminiscing. Miss Tong, take off your coat first. I'll check your injuries." She had bandaged Wu Tong's wounds many times since she was young. Sometimes, she even felt that it was all thanks to Wu Tong that she fell in love with being a doctor. Oh! Wu Tong gritted her teeth and started to take off her coat. She really didn't care about Chen Guang. She didn't think it was necessary at all. Chen Guang felt his heart ache when he saw Wu Tong's face turn red from the pain. He walked up to her and gently placed his fingers on her collarbone. He channeled some inner force into her body to suppress the pain a little. Wu Tong was stunned. She turned to look at him. "You've really become a martial arts master?" Chen Guang grunted. "The person in front of you is the current, oh no, the greatest martial arts master in history. Cocky." Wu Tong rolled her eyes. With Tang Ying's help, she carefully took off her coat. She was only wearing a sky blue bra inside. Chapter 946. Hearing those words, Chen Guang's calm face froze with his hands trembling. He might be close to Wu Tong, but he had never taken advantage of her eyes in the past. Fortunately, his acting skills had reached perfection. Although his heart was pounding, he didn't show it on his face. Tang Ying sneaked a peek at Chen Guang's expression before focusing all her attention on Tang Ying. Wu Tong was actually quite shy, but her shoulder was hurting badly and it didn't seem like a big deal to let him take a look. As expected of an outstanding student from Shun's special training camp. Although Wu Tong's neck was blushing, her face was completely under control. But that wasn't the end. Tang Ying squinted her eyes and carefully examined Wu Tong's collarbone. She lifted her fingers and gently pulled open the strap of her bra. "All right, I need to fix the bandages on your upper body and take off your bra." Wu Tong glared at her. "Ha? Huh? What huh?" It wasn't the first time, so he was quick. "Forget it. Chen Guang, help me undo the strap." Chen Guang gulped down a mouthful of saliva and felt that he had done a great job as a nurse. Sister Wu Tong. I'll do it?" Wu Tong's body stiffened and she snorted. All right, be gentle." Chen Guang placed his finger on it and clumsily pulled it open, bit by bit. With a click, it unlocked. "You're so slow. What haven't you two done before? Why are you pretending to be innocent?" Tang Ying impatiently pulled the sky blue bra away from the front and emphasized, "Lady Tong, don't move your hands around. Otherwise, your injuries will worsen. Yo, you're jumping around happily." "Lady Ying, shut up." Wu Tong couldn't hold it in anymore. She had seen Chen Guang's every move before, but now there was a third party around. It was a little too stimulating. Unknowingly, her skin gradually turned pink and she had goosebumps all over her body. After a long while, Wu Tong finally calmed down. Fortunately, her back was facing that guy and he couldn't see anything. "Wait, what is this? Damn it, what a scam." Wu Tong raised her head and looked at the mirror in front of her, as well as Chen Guang's shifty eyes that were staring at her chest through the mirror. "I'm done for, I've been seen naked. Forget it, I'll just watch. I won't lose any meat anyway." Chen Guang's eyes widened. At first, he had the same thought as Wu Tong that he could not see anything behind him. However, the mirror in the emergency room was a standard feature. It was hung on the wall so he could see it when he raised his head. Tang Ying, who had just returned from concocting the medicine, almost laughed out loud when she saw the two of them staring at each other dumbstruck. No one knew what was going through Tang Ying's mind. She subconsciously pushed Wu Tong's chest and turned to Chen Guang with a smirk. "Are you dumbfounded? Wu Tong was agitated and screamed, "Ah! Don't mess around. Don't move. Don't move. I've applied some ointment for you." Chun Guang looked at the two trembling bunnies and thought to himself, the old man didn't learn that dart technique for nothing. My eyesight is really good. Those clear skin lines, that color, that tall and straight figure. Cough, cough. Take it, take it. Tang Ying stopped fooling around and became obedient. She quickly applied the ointment for Wu Tong. At this moment, Wu Tong's collarbone was red and swollen. Tang Ying's movements were also very careful. Although Wu Tong grimaced in pain from time to time, she forced herself to endure it. Since she was half naked, she felt a little awkward, so she decided to say something to divert attention. She imitated Guangong's imposing manner of scraping bones to treat wounds and said casually, "The thief we caught today is really strange. He looks so skinny, but he's so strong. It's weird." A skinny man who could easily injure Wu Tong? Chun Guang's eyes were still staring at the mirror shamelessly, but his brows were slightly furrowed. He subconsciously thought that Wu Tong's words were related to inner force martial artists. But on second thought, he felt that it was unlikely. The saying that the poor study while the rich practice martial arts was not groundless. Without some financial foundation, it was impossible to practice martial arts. Those who were able to practice martial arts were either from various sects or clans. Even if they weren't, they were at least from wealthy families. Almost no poor person would be able to practice martial arts without any financial foundation. But as long as they were successful, the worst they could do was at least at the level of Lu Chao's bodyguard, Tai Fanshu. For example, Xian Qin and Wu Miaowan's sects were small and incomparable to the 3 aristocratic families, the 8 major sects, and the 27 sections. They belonged to the 4th tier of sects in Jianghu, but they never had to worry about money. It was impossible for someone who had to sneak around on the subway to possess inner force. At present, almost all inner force martial artists had been registered in the headquarters, so there were very few who were wandering outside. Most of them were senior experts who had been living in seclusion for years, so it was even more impossible for them to be thieves. Chun Guang couldn't help but be curious. What kind of person was he? He asked, "Where is he now?" Wu Tong said, "He went to the hospital for a simple examination and found that there was nothing wrong with him. He has been sent to the detention center." "Then I'll go meet him and see what kind of person he is." "Save it. You've already caught him. Are you going to beat him up? Wouldn't that be lynching?" "Don't worry. Stealing and assaulting a police officer are enough to make him suffer. You'd better not interfere with my work. With your bad temper, you can make small things into big things." Wu Tong immediately rejected Chun Guang's proposal. Seeing that she insisted, Chun Guang didn't say anything else. He secretly laughed at himself. He had just thrown away the title of the director of the Guangdong headquarters, but he still hadn't completely adjusted his mentality. He was subconsciously worried about the country and the people. Letting out a sigh, Chun Guang replied, "All right, I'll listen to you, but you have to be careful. It's easy for you to make enemies out of your position, so you have to tell me if anything happens. I'm not bragging, but I'm really powerful now. I can fight 100 people in minutes." Okay. Don't worry. I won't be stubborn." On the other side, Tang Ying deftly fixed Wu Tong's bandages and splints. Then, she clapped her hands. "Done. You're also an old patient. You know you have to move your hands less. Eat more vegetables, eggs, and meat. I won't emphasize it to you. Come to me tomorrow and the day after. I'll change your dressing." Although her real profession wasn't orthopedics, her skills were extremely high. The triangular bandages were quite exquisite. Next to her, Chun Guang asked, "I don't need to be hospitalized?" He pretended to ask as he continued to glance at the mirror. "Sigh, there's nothing to see." Her upper body was tightly bound by bandages and splints. Her upper body was tightly wrapped and airtight. Wu Tong waved her hand indifferently. "Why would I need to be hospitalized for such a small injury? I'll be fine in a few days." She wasn't being stubborn. When she was studying and training in the police academy, she had fallen from a platform several meters high. Her fall was much worse than this one, but it didn't take long for her to recover. Her bone healing ability was far stronger than the average person's. This was probably the real secret behind her strong close combat ability despite being a woman. It was a natural gift. Chen Guang turned to look at Tang Ying. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end he didn't bring it up. Instead, he said to Wu Tong, "You can't drive now. Why don't I send you home?" Wu Tong nodded. "Okay, then we'll go back now. Missing, can you help me put on my clothes?" As she said that, she slightly tugged at the bandages under her chest. "Missing, you're too tight. Are you trying to flatten me?" "Shut up. Your bones are fractured. If you don't fix them tighter, you'll move around and injure yourself." Tang Ying couldn't be bothered to talk to her. Just as she put on her coat, Wu Tong's phone rang again. She picked it up and chatted for a while before hanging up. She looked at Chen Guang dejectedly. "Sai, forget it. Chen Guang, you can go back by yourself. My dad said he's coming to pick me up." After saying that, she seemed to be afraid that Wu Shan would bump into Chen Guang. She got up and hurried to the door. As soon as she opened the door, Wu Shan's voice came from outside. "I told you to be more obedient, but you wouldn't listen. Now you're hurt, right? Happy now?" Wu Shan scolded Wu Tong. "None of your business. Aren't you the same? You're hurt less, aren't you? You? Why are you like this again?" All right, I got it. I'll be more careful next time. Let's go. I'll go say thank you to Tang Ying." Tang Ying has already returned to her office. She's very busy. She doesn't have time to wait for you to say thank you. Besides, there's no need for thanks between us sisters. Let's go. As Wu Tong and Wu Shan's voices faded away, Chen Guang was left in a daze as he had no idea what was going on. Chen Guang turned to look at Tang Ying. "What's going on? It seems like Sister Wu Tong is asking me to avoid talking to Uncle Wu Shan." Tang Ying's eyes flickered slightly, but seeing that she couldn't avoid it, she sighed. "She told me about it yesterday. Isn't it because of you? What's wrong? You used to work in a very special department, right?" Chen Guang nodded. "Yes, very special." "What's her name?" Tang Ying's curiosity was suddenly piqued. "I asked her, but she wouldn't tell me. She only said that the confidentiality level is very high. According to the rules, she doesn't even have the right to know. If she tells me it's against the rules, there's nothing that can't be said here. It's up to me whether or not I can keep it a secret." "Huh? Light swollen chrysanthemum?" Chen Guang knew it would be like this. Wrong. What nonsense are you thinking about? Light as in radiance, calm as in sea-stabilizing needle? Tang Ying looked him up and down. "What a perverted name. Did you come up with it?" "I'm really innocent. But I heard that when I was named, it was because of the word light in my name." "All right, let's not talk about the name anymore. Anyway, Lady Tong said that it's easy for you to resign and leave, but it seems that some people don't want to let you off the hook completely. Their original intention was to let your old friend, Wu Shan, interact with you more. They don't want you to be a free man. Uncle Wu Shan will advance soon, but the things he's in charge of shouldn't be much different from now. If he maintains a relationship with you, he might be able to meet some people's needs." Chapter 947. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. President Rao was not the only backup plan prepared by the elders. These people were good at playing one trick behind his back. On one hand, they wanted him to give up his power, but on the other hand, they did not want to let go of his influence among the inner force users. Perhaps more importantly, they did not want to let go of his peerless martial arts that allowed him to kill Ouyang Tianqing. In the end, they still wanted to turn him into their tool. Tang Ying saw that he was distracted and looked at him curiously. "How powerful are you now?" "I'm a professional doctor, but I can't see any changes with my naked eye." "No, your muscles are a little stronger, but you're just a person with a nose and eyes. You don't have 3 heads and 6 arms." Chen Guang looked around and ran to the sink to find the faucet. He placed his thumb and index finger on the metal faucet and exerted some force. "Here, see for yourself how powerful I am." Tang Ying walked over slowly and stared at the faucet. There were 2 clear fingerprints on the metal faucet. "This you, How did you do it? Tang Ying was shocked. He only used 2 fingers to exert a little force. He didn't even see him use much strength, but it was already like this. It was merely 2 fingers. How much strength did he have? Chen Guang chuckled. Just a little pinch and it's like this. Tang Ying still could not understand. From a medical point of view, Chen Guang's bones and muscles were like a hydraulic press. Tang Ying wanted to examine his hand again, but there was a knock on the door. Section Chief Tang? Can I come in now? Tang Ying could not care less about Chen Guang. She quickly picked up the bra that Wu Tong had left on the blanket. What's wrong? Come in. The male doctor from the emergency department poked his head in. Section Chief Tang, you guys, Tang Ying understood and quickly said, Okay, we'll go now. When the man turned and left, Tang Ying grabbed the sky blue bra on the bed and stuffed it into Chen Guang's hand. Take it. Chen Guang took it in his hand. He could still feel the warmth of her body through his fingers. What? Take care of your sister's things for her. I'm so busy right now that I don't have time to send them back to her. Whether you want to keep them for yourself or send them back to her, that's up to you. Sister Tang Ying, I still need a pair of lace underwear. Scram. The 2 walked out of the emergency room. Tang Ying then said, Forget it. I won't ask you anymore. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to my shift. When she said this, Chen Guang felt that her eyes were slightly evasive. It was obvious that she had remembered the bet and was pretending not to know. She really wanted to go back on her word. Sister Tang Ying, I saw another chief physician in your office. You're not on duty today, right? Tang Ying was taken aback. Fine, you saw through me. Chen Guang suddenly took a deep breath and asked, So, you want to go back on your word? Tang Ying's body trembled. She was slightly stunned at first, but she soon noticed the provocative look in Chen Guang's eyes. Who said I want to go back on my word? Then I heard from someone that you're planning to run to America? Did little Kai tell you that? Don't worry about where I heard it from. Just tell me, are you trying to go back on your word? If you really want to go back on your word, then just say it. I won't say another word. I've always been a reasonable person, but I'll never bet with you again. Sai, this is a game of luck. Go. I, Tang Ying, always mean what I say. I never go back on my word. Last time, even, I was on the plane because of you. Then why do you suddenly want to go to America? Huh? Don't tell me you think I'm afraid I'll let Miss Tong down. So I'm purposely avoiding you? Unexpectedly, Tang Ying took the initiative to say this. Isn't that so? This time, it was Chen Guang's turn to be at a loss. Tang Ying smiled disdainfully. Are you kidding me? If I really thought that way, I would have ignored you a long time ago. I know your sister Wu Tong's thoughts better than anyone else. I can guarantee you that she doesn't mind at all. Back then, when we were watching porn together, we even… Anyway, this has nothing to do with her. Chen Guang's eyes lit up. What's going on between the 2 of you? Get lost. Are you going to listen to my explanation? Listen. Tang Ying composed herself and sighed. To tell you the truth, I've been back in China for more than half a year. I've met many patients and finished my thesis. But recently, I've encountered some unpleasant issues when publishing my thesis. I had to ask little Kai for help to resolve them. Let's not talk about these trivial matters. Anyway, I'm a little disappointed with the state of research in China. I feel that staying in the hospital is a little boring. I plan to take this opportunity to visit my alma mater. If it's possible, I'd like Moorlands and Gokyo University's medical department to jointly set up a research institute. I'm just going to switch from clinical to scientific research. If I'm just going to be a clinical doctor for the rest of my life, I won't be able to save many people. Only by switching to scientific research and making some achievements in academia can I realize my ambition. In the past half a year, I've pretty much figured out the situation in China. It's time to take the next step. Nobel Prize in Medicine? Chen Guang narrowed his eyes and looked at her. He had intended to tease her, but unexpectedly, Tang Ying raised her eyebrows. That's right. This is my lifelong pursuit. For this, I can stay single for the rest of my life. just like your sister Wu Tong who swore to catch all the criminals in the world. The two of you are really good friends. Tang Ying covered her mouth and laughed. You can call it birds of a feather. Chen Guang also laughed. He finally understood the real situation in Tang Ying and Wu Tong's hearts, and he felt a lot more relieved. He and Tang Ying had known each other for a long time. If this kind of words came out of someone else's mouth, it might seem a little ridiculous. However, the person who said this was the youngest doctor in the famous Moorlands Medical College in the past 20 years, and she was already famous both domestically and abroad at such a young age. Chen Guang knew that she was serious. When she said these words in a seemingly joking tone, her eyes flashed with the brilliance of incomparable determination. People will always be great because of their dreams. Moreover, Tang Ying's seemingly unreachable dream was great in itself. Chen Guang's slightly out-of-control desire from taking advantage of Wu Tong's eyes in the mirror had unknowingly dissipated a lot. Okay, I understand, but I don't know how I can help you. If you need anything, just let me know. It was a pity that Tang Ying was not short of money. Otherwise, Chen Guang felt that if she wanted to set up a research institute, he would be able to sponsor some of it. However, when he thought about her rich younger brother and her family's assets, there was no need for him to help. Okay, thank you for your kindness. Chen Guang hesitated for a moment. Then about the bet, forget it. Just pretend I never mentioned it. Seeing how Tang Ying was obsessed with knowledge and had lofty ambitions, Chen Guang felt ashamed of his inferiority. Her brilliance made him seem like a vile person. Really? Tang Ying tilted her head and looked straight at him. Chen Guang nodded reluctantly. Really? You won't regret it? No. Come on. Looking at your aggrieved face, even I feel sorry for you. Don't look down on me. Although I plan to stay single for the rest of my life, I don't reject men. I am also a normal woman. What do you mean? Tang Ying smiled meaningfully. You know what I mean. Chen Guang's eyes widened. He roughly understood what Tang Ying meant. What did the old man have to deserve? Okay, it's just that I've been too busy recently. Otherwise, I would have fulfilled my promise for you tonight. Anyway, I'm telling you, you don't have to worry. Sigh, poor me, I only know how to deal with books and patience all day. It's not easy to meet a young man that I like. You're not bad. And a lot of things have happened with you on and off. What's that saying again? Boiling a frog in warm water. Yes, I don't know if you're a frog or warm water. Anyway, we'll get to know each other sooner or later, at least until I meet a man who is more reliable and interesting than you. Do you have confidence in yourself? Chen Guang really didn't know how to answer her. It didn't seem right to say that he had confidence in himself. It was strange for her to talk about such improper things with a straight face. But if he said that he wasn't confident, he would feel uncomfortable. As the two chatted, they unknowingly returned to Tang Ying's dormitory. Her roommate, the female doctor, was not around tonight. Chen Guang sat down and took a sip of the cold tea. You're not going to the on-call room? I'll go later. I need to take a break. By the way, if we can really set up a research institute, won't you be a professor at my school? Tang Ying nodded. That's right. Say hello to your teacher. Go, go, go. You want to be the director of the research institute? Aha! That's amazing. Sigh, it's a pity that I don't know how I can help you. I only have money now, but you don't lack it. Chen Guang brought up the past again and sighed. At this moment, he really didn't have any other thoughts in his mind. Unexpectedly, after listening to his words, Tang Ying's eyes gradually brightened as she looked at him. Chen Guang felt goosebumps under her gaze. What are you thinking about? Tang Ying suddenly straightened up and approached him. You really want to help me? Other than that kind of thing? Chen Guang nodded blankly. Of course, don't think that I only have that one function. That's right. In my eyes, you have other functions. What are you trying to say? I also know that there are some talented people in this world who can practice a kind of qigong called internal force. You said that you're already the world, oh no, the first in history. You're not bragging, are you? Chen Guang nodded. I'm not bragging. I'm telling the truth. Then does this mean that your talent in practicing internal force is countless times greater than that of ordinary people? Chun Guang nodded shamelessly. That's right. My talent is extraordinary. It's rare to see one in 1,000 years. You've shown me your ability in that area before. You even broke the wooden plank. I also know that you participated in the arm wrestling competition in Detroit. Just now, you used 2 fingers to flatten the iron pipe. I didn't deliberately think about it before, but now I want to know. How is it that your hand doesn't look particularly strong, but it can completely suppress those monstrous men in arm wrestling? Why is the strength in your hand so great? Chun Guang gradually began to panic. So, be my lab rat. Your body must be different from an ordinary person's. I even suspect that compared to ordinary people, you're superior from the genetic level. If you really want to help me, let me study you. The more Tang Ying spoke, the brighter the light in her eyes became. Step by step, she approached Chun Guang, forcing him to retreat into a corner. Her eyes were like those of a hungry wolf that had spotted its prey. They were even brighter than the LED lights on the roof. You want to slice me up? Chun Guang swallowed his saliva, his intestines turning green with regret. Chapter 948. His brain must have short-circuited. How could he not have thought of this? Perhaps there were at least tens of millions of people who wanted to study him. The number of people in official scientific research institutions could probably form a line from the East Gate to the West Gate of the 5 capitals. It was only because of his identity in the past, as well as the tragedy of Su Lijing, who had a high position in the academic world, and perhaps some old man's obstruction, that such a thing had not happened to him so far. But Tang Ying was different. The most important thing was that they were very familiar with each other, and their relationship was not ordinary. Others did not dare to mention it, but she could. If someone else came to mention it, he could simply kick them away, but he could not do this to Tang Ying. She might have thought of this briefly in the past, but at that time, she was still focused on clinical work and did not think of changing to scientific research. On the other hand, she did not expose this matter, and she did not show too much of an unusual side. Now, she had finally discovered it. She had also reacted. Not only was she stronger than ordinary people, but she was also stronger than the internal force martial artists who were already beyond ordinary people. This was terrible. She did not know how to make friends. What nonsense are you thinking about? How could I bear to cut you up? It's not like I'm a fool to do such a thing. Then what do you want? Just give me a sample of your body regularly. Stab me every once in a while? Do you have to be so hardcore? Nonsense, some things are more convenient to extract genes than muscles. It's not that uncomfortable, and it will be over with a close eye. Don't say it so lightly, right? With my many years of experience, even if I can only decipher the mystery of your genes that are superior to ordinary people's, it is enough to let human evolution to a new level. I even feel that you represent another stage in the evolution of mankind. Admit it, didn't you already know? I remember you once told me about God. You already had this feeling at that time, right? But from a scientific perspective, the so-called God actually refers to another type of person who is more powerful than ordinary people, like our country's legendary figures like Fuxi, Shen Yuan, and Qi Yu. You don't seem to care about what I think at all. The more Chun Guang listened, the more shocked he became. At this moment, Tang Ying reminded him of another person who had died but was still alive, Nikasi Teipel. In a sense, Tang Ying and Nicole were actually quite similar. They were both mad scientists. These kinds of people looked no different from ordinary people under normal circumstances, but once their thoughts were completely opened up, they would immediately reveal their differences from ordinary people. They had extremely terrifying logical reasoning and analysis abilities. They could often find the entry point that ordinary people couldn't comprehend from the small details, and emit unimaginable ideas. This train of thought seemed absurd at times, but it was extremely logical. Great scientific achievements often came from a sudden idea after a long period of preparation, just like Newton's discovery of gravity. At this moment, Tang Ying seemed to be making wild guesses, but many of her deductions were on point. So what are you planning to do? Please give me a definite answer. I'm really scared. Didn't I already say that? I want to study your genes. Can I refuse? Then I'll die in front of you. Don't be like this. Do you want my blood or my flesh? Or should I give you a few strands of my hair? If it doesn't hurt, I don't particularly mind. For the sake of our relationship, anything can be discussed. Hair won't do. Although I can extract part of the genes, it's still the stratum corneum after all. It's not representative. Can you stop keeping me in suspense? Just give me a quick death. Tang Ying finally used her chest to push Chen Guang hard against the wall. Her hand slowly moved downwards. Her face was red, but it wasn't a red of shyness. Instead, it was a flush of excitement and ecstasy, like Columbus who discovered a new continent. She seemed to be talking to herself, but also seemed to be answering Chen Guang's question. I was really stupid in the past. Why didn't I think of this earlier? Actually, I've already extracted a few samples from your body. But at that time, I didn't even realize it. What a waste of resources. As soon as her voice fell, Chen Guang's body stiffened. A certain part of him was pinched. He finally understood. After all this time, she had her eyes on his countless monkeys and grandchildren. My sister is amazing. Why didn't you say so earlier? You really scared this baby to death. Be reasonable, this can be done. I think so too. So I'm suddenly interested in honoring the bet. Can you not be so realistic? There's no other way. I'm just that realistic. Are you interested now? Chen Guang realized that he had really been tortured tonight. Originally, when he first came here, his heart was in turmoil. Then he met Wu Tong. When he heard that Wu Tong was injured, his heart calmed down. Then, he saw that Wu Tong's injury wasn't too serious. Between Tang Ying and Wu Tong, one was a wounded soldier, and the other was a battlefield doctor. Coupled with the spring scenery in the mirror, his calm heart started to move again. Later, he planned to use the excuse of sending Wu Tong home to have some fun. But in the end, she ran away with her father. Later, he was shocked by the ambitious Tang Ying. Ashamed of his inferiority, he activated his saint mode. In the end, it didn't take long for him to become a saint again. After so many twists and turns, he still had to have sex today. Sister Tang Ying, who was on his side, was actually a mad scientist deep down. Moreover, her specialty matched his. Perhaps this was fate. From the first time he picked her up outside a bar when he was still on the internet, this day was destined. Forget it, let her study him. Anyway, he didn't suffer too much. Even if she really cracked some of the mysteries at the genetic level of his body, it was in fact the most basic body function among the countless skills and abilities provided by the heavenly Holy Grail. This didn't affect him being ahead of the human race and the times. It was an honor to be the cornerstone for her to realize her dream. Perhaps, years later, because of his great and generous contribution, mankind would truly achieve a leap in evolution and march out of Earth and into the universe. As the greatest lab rat in history, he would also leave a deep mark in the history of mankind together with Tang Ying. He would certainly be remembered by history and engraved on a monument. This might become the greatest sperm donation in human history. Sitting in the phaeton, Chen Guang's face was shining with the same brilliance as Tang Ying's. I'm really great. Ahem. In the next few days, Chen Guang didn't run around anymore. Instead, he was a good student at school for a few days. In between, he visited Wu Tong. In the end, the elder sister had only been lying at home for less than 2 days before she was brought to her director's office. Because something had happened, and it was a big deal. She was a little anxious. The thief she caught the day before yesterday had stopped breathing without any warning in the detention center. Although the whole process of the case had been recorded, which was enough to prove the innocence of the branch office, there was still some negative impact after all. Wu Tong also felt very innocent. During the whole process, she didn't even punch the thief once. During the examination at the hospital, there was no abnormality in the thief's body. When he was detained, he was also served well, and there was no violation of any rules. According to the autopsy report, the cause of this person's death was due to overwork and the sudden functional exhaustion of the organs. On one hand, Wu Tong was busy providing evidence to prove the innocence of the law enforcement officers, And on the other hand, she had to deal with the influence of public opinion. So, even though her injury had not fully recovered, she could only go to work with it. Chen Guang couldn't help much in this matter. As for Tang Ying, she was completely in a state of work. Less than 3 days after taking samples from Chen Guang, she crossed the ocean and went abroad. Her plan to start a research institute was officially put on the agenda, and no one could stop it. Chapter 949. As for Chen Guang himself, things were still going according to plan. Although time was tight, the experienced Tianguang manager handled things in an orderly manner. Apart from the fact that the male lead had not read the script nor participated in the rehearsals so far, Director Yang she had to personally act as the male lead during the rehearsals to temporarily cooperate with the rehearsals. There was no other problem. The warm-up of the play on the internet was almost over. Just like in the past, the people who supported him and those who dissed him were divided into 2 groups. There was also the neutral group who had nothing to do with it and were enjoying the show. In short, it was boiling. Nowadays, Chen Guang's show never worried about attention and popularity. He had already walked further and further on the path of a phenomenal controversial figure. Once he set out, there would be no turning back. Unlike other celebrities, after becoming famous, they would gradually cherish their feathers and try their best to get away from all kinds of disputes and criticism. However, the almighty Superman did not do so. Feathers? What was that? Why should he cherish them? This young man, who had appeared out of nowhere, was like a meteor spinning in the sky, a path of sparks and lightning, tossing and turning, never stopping. He never seemed to know how to restrain himself. He always liked to challenge things that others thought were impossible. Every time he fell silent for a short time, it seemed to mean that he would explode again. Every time he erupted, it was enough to shock everyone's eyeballs out of their sockets. Sorry, he was never interested in things that followed the rules. As long as he made a move, it would definitely be a big move that defied common sense. Even his die-hard fans, while stubbornly supporting him, would secretly have doubts in their hearts, worrying about whether he could really do it. But the more worried they were, when he really did something incredible, the more shocked they were. The feeling of seeing the person they liked and admired once again overturning common sense and standing at the peak of the domain that he wanted to stand at was even stronger, making people's hearts beat faster and their blood boil. He made many people understand that in this world, many things that seemed impossible could actually be turned into reality. He even became the hope in many people's hearts. For example, when Chen Guang participated in the World Language Conference, a patient with lower limbs paralysis secretly made up his mind that if Chen Guang won the championship, he would try to walk again. If he tried again, perhaps his nerves would recover. In the end, Chen Guang succeeded, and the patient stood up on his own with tears brimming in his eyes. There was also a businessman who had lost all hope after his business failed. He sat on the balcony of a 28-story building and watched Chen Guang's live stream in the World Arm Wrestling competition. Finally, he gave up the idea of committing suicide and decided to face his fate bravely. The heavy debts he had on him were just like those huge men defeated by the thin Chen Guang. Although they looked strong, they were not invincible. There were actually quite a number of such people. Although many people were unwilling to admit it, Chen Guang had been using his seemingly absurd but actually surpassing absurd challenges to change the world bit by bit. As for the haters and haters who didn't like him, whenever he made a move, they would temporarily forget the past embarrassment and bite the bullet to slander him online or in real life. Even if they had been led into the ditch by him again and again, they would repeatedly tell themselves not to jump to conclusions easily in the future. But when this guy jumped out again and again, looking at what he was going to do, and then using their self-proclaimed rational brain to judge, they couldn't help but question him subconsciously. It was precisely because of Chen Guang's complicated character that those who liked him even more because he didn't disappoint them time and time again. At the same time, those who hated him had no choice but to change their inclinations and like him. Of course, the most stubborn haters would gradually change from dislike to hatred because they lost face again and again, and become even more stubborn. But there was an old saying that a mediocre person who was not hated by others. Since embarking on the road of becoming a celebrity, Chen Guang didn't expect himself to please everyone. No one could be liked by everyone, let alone a flamboyant new internet celebrity like Chen Guang. It didn't matter if others liked him or hated him, said good things about him online, or changed different ways to slander him. If he could control them, he would control them a little. If he couldn't, he just let them be. Anyway, it was all about popularity. Being controversial was a torture and test for ordinary people, but for him, who had long been trained to have a big heart and strong nerves, it could save him a lot of investment in publicity. Because of this, although there wasn't much investment in publicity for this play, it still caused quite a stir. In particular, some rumors came from some places, which made this matter even more mysterious. It was said that the male lead, Chen Guang, hadn't been seen in several rehearsals. Instead, the young director Yang Shi had rehearsed in place of him. When the other leading actors raised doubts, Yang Shi, who had a good reputation in the industry, not only didn't grab his male lead back, but he also told the others not to ask too much and not to worry needlessly. No one knew how much money Yang Shi had received from Chen Guang. He actually didn't care about his face and reputation. It was estimated that he could at least buy a suite in Yanjing Second Ring Road. If you, Chen Guang, are really busy, then we can just forget about it. But it was said that during this time, he actually didn't care about the play and stayed in school like an ordinary student. Moreover, someone found the printed script that Yang Shi had prepared for Chen Guang in his office. This meant that the male lead hadn't even read the script from beginning to end. Yes, you invited us to perform in the play, and the remuneration is almost 5 times the market price. It's so high that it's impossible to refuse. But all the other professional actors and main producers are working hard to rehearse, and you, an unconventional male lead, actually don't care about it and become a student? You're messing with us. Of course, although almost all the main actors were dissatisfied, the remuneration was high, and the breach of contract was also high. They couldn't bear the cost of breaking the contract easily. Secondly, although Chen Guang was only a newcomer in the entertainment industry, some channels, both overt and covert, showed that he had power and influence beyond ordinary people's imagination. Although many people had the idea of refusing to perform, in the end, they endured it. Forget it, a lifetime of fame will be ruined this time. I'll just treat it as accompanying the prince to study. I'll just play with him. Don't other professional singers sing on stage with President Chang from the Chenda group from time to time? Although this matter was a bit disgusting, it was over with a pinch. But in the end, there were still people who were dissatisfied. Although they didn't show it on the surface, they couldn't help but say it secretly outside. In fact, Yang Shi was also quite helpless. Although he knew Chen Guang's ability, he also felt that not reading the script from beginning to end was a bit strange. In private, he had told Chen Guang many times, but Chen Guang just didn't listen. He was determined not to cooperate, and he even said, "Don't panic, the sky won't fall. Even if it does, I'll be able to hold it for you." In the end, Yang Shi seemed to have no way to deal with this person, and could only let him do as he pleased. He also knew that the rumors that were spreading outside were actually spread by the internal staff of the production team. He asked Chen Guang if he wanted to rectify the internal situation and find out who was the one who didn't keep their mouth shut and had no professionalism. In the end, Chen Guang didn't care and said that he would let it be and not investigate the matter. At that time, the conversation between the two went like this. "Chen Guang, this isn't good for your reputation, right? It doesn't matter. It's meaningless to say so much before going on stage. Whether it's a donkey or a horse, we'll see in a minute. I understand the logic, but can you come over and take the script I printed back to have a look?" "No need, my memory is very strong. I'll just read it once before going on stage. Also, if there are many people in the production team who are scolding me, don't hide it. You can complain about me as much as you want on the set. It'd be best if I can see you complaining outside tomorrow. That would be even better. I slightly regret coming here this time. Recently, my peers in the circle have already spread the word that I'm a laughingstock. Director Deng also called to scold me, saying that I didn't properly lead the show for you, but instead accompanied you to mess around. I had to quibble with him that I wanted to use the play to train you and barely muddle through. However, he was worried that if the show failed, it would cause your reputation to explode. At that time, the box office might also be affected. Okay, Brother Yang, let me ask you one thing. Do you trust my acting skills? If I go on stage, do you think I'll mess up? On the other side of the phone, She pondered for a moment. In his mind, he recalled the former boxing champion Ali and said, "As long as you can remember your lines, there won't be a problem. That's it. I have to go to class. Let's talk later." I'm hanging up. This was the longest conversation the two had ever had over the phone about the play. As a result, from that day onwards, the grapevine began to spread even more news. The play director, Yang Shi, who had been helping the male lead, Chen Guang, finally exploded. He flew into a rage on the set, smashed the script, smashed the phone, and kicked the table. Chen Guang asked him to complain a little, but Yang Shi forced himself to add scenes. He was also a little cautious. If he really messed up, others could at least see that he tried to save something. However, he couldn't stand that Master Chen Guang was too difficult to please. "Brother Guang, we're friends, but you have to leave me a way out." Not to mention, Yang Shi's acting was very effective. Young director Yang Shi lost his temper. "I've never seen such an absurd actor. All main creators pay 5 times the price." Nouveau riche Chen Guang's artistic path. Shameless internet celebrity digs into the classic, tarnishing art with money. The male lead of Thunderstorm, who doesn't rehearse or read the script. He has lost his bottom line to hype up. Famous director. If Chen Guang messes up Thunderstorm, I will call on the famous directors in the industry to boycott him. Internet celebrity nouveau riche, surpassing the existence of young male idols. Similar news spread like wildfire on the internet, like an unrestrained zebra. Chapter 950. This time, it's different from the past when Chen Guang was being protected by the old men in the dark. But it's different now. He had resigned and was no longer the director of the Guangdong General Administration. He had also clearly expressed that he had no interest in the officialdom. The elders had dealt with the father and son of the Chao family as he wished, and Chao Zhengming had even become a deranged person. However, because of this, the two sides had become estranged, and he seemed extremely unruly and difficult to control. His integrity and stubbornness were a double-edged sword. It made people not need to be too wary of him, but at the same time, they could not put too much hope in him. When he said those words in the conference room, the disdain in his words, the contempt in his eyes, and the sympathy and disdain he had for those who were deeply mired in the mire, the old men could see it clearly and understand his attitude. Just as he said, he would never become the same kind of person as them. His words made many elders angry. They felt that they had been humiliated, but everyone also knew that, in a certain sense, Chen Guang's choice was also reasonable. These people had heavy responsibilities. For so many years, they had had a bright and dark past. They had carried this bloated and huge country on their shoulders. Perhaps because of some selfish family interests, it was not easy for them to stagger through the swamp to this day. Although they were now in high positions, they were not happy. Many of them even had a past that they were not willing to face. This was a precious life experience, but it was inevitable that it was painful. Although no one regretted it, because they did not think that others could do better than them. The blood on their hands and the promises they had broken in their hearts were all responsibilities that had to be borne to reach this position. They felt that they might not be great, but looking at the current situation in Huaxia, they did not disgrace the ideals in their hearts. Although society was still unfair, and many people felt that the moon in foreign countries was especially round, in the end, it was almost to the point where everyone had clothes to wear and food to eat. Although many things and people had not been honorable enough, their conscience was clear. However, they could not deny Chen Guang's choice. It might be a better and brighter path. Compared to her, Chen Guang lived a more open life. He didn't have to hide so much filth in his heart. Perhaps if time could be reversed and they were given a second chance to choose when they were young, they might be more willing to live like Chen Guang. Since they couldn't change his personality, and they couldn't drag him down this path, the elders didn't have the intention to continue to train him in the direction they wanted. In short, Chen Guang had no possibility of entering politics in the future, so his personal image was not that important. So now, Chen Guang had completely become a wild wolf that was allowed to roam freely. He could do whatever he wanted. Even if others slandered him, the old man would not take the initiative to help him clean up the mess. As for Chen Guang himself, he deliberately let the public opinion on the internet ferment as it pleased. Even when Yu Hong asked him if he wanted to think of a way, he not only did not try to clear his name, but he also asked Yu Hong to take the initiative to pay more people to criticize him for acting in a drama. The more people scolded, the better. The more hatred they could attract, the better. Whoever wrote the most beautiful article would be able to make others gnash their teeth in anger. Chen Guang would even add money as a bonus. Chen Guang had absolute confidence in his acting skills. He did not believe that he would mess up Thunderstorm at all. At least that was what he thought until he opened the script for the first time. He had played this kind of trick more than once, and it was always the same. He first suppressed it, then raised it. Now, the more people criticized him, the more waves he would cause. On the other side, Tianguang Media was almost done by Yu Hong. The official registration was successful, and Lu Xiaoliang's acquisition of the IP was also in progress. Rao Zhenghai, who was prepared to spend a lot of money, was having a headache, but the financing was still going well. In about a month's time, the newly registered Tianguang Media's financing and acquisition of shares would be officially unveiled. Time passed by unknowingly. It was already the end of the second week. At 7 o'clock that night, the drama was about to officially go on stage. Chen Guang, the male lead, finally arrived at the theater 4 hours earlier than usual. Other than Yang Shi, the other main cast members were basically in a state of explosion. "You're finally willing to come here." We almost thought that the male lead was the director himself. But there were only 4 hours left before the performance. What's the use of coming now? You might as well not come at all and just let director Yang do it himself. At least he can complete the whole scene. Yang Shi braced himself and brought Chen Guang in front of the main cast members. He felt like he was about to be ignited by the questioning gazes below. "Well, let me introduce everyone. This is the manager of Tianguang Media, Mr. Chen, also known as the almighty superhuman Chen Guang." Yang Shi swallowed his saliva, feeling quite stifled. "You guys might not believe it, but I'm going on stage in 4 hours. How can I still be so calm and introduce the male lead to the other main cast members?" Chen Guang waved his hand calmly and chuckled. "Hi, everyone. I'm the main cast member of Thunderstorm, Chen Guang." The other 20 to 30 main cast members below the stage replied weakly, "Hello, Mr. Chen." Everyone called him Mr. Chen, and no one called him by his name. It looked like they were respecting him, but in fact it was because no one really treated him as an actor. "You say you're the main cast, Chen Guang, but in our eyes you're just a rich and capricious boss, Mr. Chen." Chen Guang was well aware of this, but he wasn't bothered by it. Looking at his watch, he said, "It's 3 p.m. right now, and there's only 4 hours left until the stage. Everyone, make your preparations. I have high hopes for this play." The moment he said that, everyone was stunned. "You have the cheek to say that? You have high hopes for this play? You have high hopes that you've never attended rehearsals or read the script. You also know that there are only 4 hours left, but you still forced yourself to come. You still have the cheek to lecture us? If it wasn't for your irresistible offer of 5 times the salary, we would have spat on you a long time ago. I've never seen such a shameless person." Finally, someone couldn't take it anymore. A young actress with delicate features, dressed in a plain-made costume, coughed violently and said, "Mr. Chan, I want to ask you a question." The moment she said that, the other actors' expressions changed. They knew she was going to make things difficult for them. Those who were unfamiliar with her didn't say a word and just waited to watch the show. Those who were close to her gave her looks, telling her not to stir up trouble at this time and not to cause trouble for herself. She had already held her nose for so long, she couldn't still wet the bed in the morning. Another middle-aged actress who was close to her, Yin Fei, who played the important role of Fan Yi, immediately tugged at her clothes and said, "Xiao Lu, don't mess around. Have you forgotten what I told you last night?" Shi Lu turned around and glanced at Yin Fei. "Sister Yin Fei, I understand, but I just can't take this lying down. Sigh you? Yin Fei didn't know what to say. Last night, when the two of them finished rehearsals and went out for supper, Shi Lu was full of complaints about Chen Guang and even wanted to give up the chance to perform. At that time, Yin Fei tried to persuade her. Although the male lead was very unreliable, a normal play wouldn't be able to achieve the impact of Thunderstorm. There were countless eyes all over the country waiting for it. When the time came, it didn't matter how bad Chen Guang's acting was. Although it might affect their acting standards and condition, with him as a foil, wouldn't it reflect the high standards of these professional actors? I know you don't need money and don't care about his 5 times salary and compensation. But although you have some connections in the industry, you are still a newcomer. Participating in such a high-profile show is good for your development. At most, don't treat this play as an art performance. Treat it as a reality show. At that time, Shi Lu was reluctantly persuaded by Yin Fei, but she was still young and impetuous. Today, she was like a barrel of gunpowder. On the other side, Chen Guang had already turned his gaze over and looked straight at the girl. Oh, what's the problem? Shi Lu took a step forward. President Chen, do you know the name of the character you're going to play? Hearing this, Yang Shi's expression changed slightly. He stepped forward and interrupted. Shi Lu, don't joke around. Chen Guang carried it before. Chen Guang answered straightforwardly. I don't know. F***CK. Yang Shi was dumbfounded. I was just about to wash the floor for you. You turned around and peed on the floor. Can't we talk properly? How do you want me to wash it for you? This time, it's even healthier. I can't even wash it. You. Shi Lu pointed at Chen Guang. Her hands were trembling and her lips were trembling. She couldn't speak for a long time. She didn't expect that Chen Guang would dare to admit it. You don't even know the name of the character you're going to play. And we thought that even if you didn't come to rehearse, you would have at least read the script in private. If you didn't say it yourself, we wouldn't have dared to accept this reality. Can a person really be so unreliable? She was so angry that her eyes were wide open. Her originally fair face had turned bright red because of her anger. The other main cast members also felt their hearts skip a beat. This is so infuriating. We might be acting in a fake drama. Despair. All right, Yin Fei didn't want to persuade Shi Lu anymore. She also wanted to see what the most deceitful male lead in history could do. So what did you mean by reminding us that we only have 4 hours to go on stage? What do you mean by placing high hopes on us? Are you trying to make all of us into a joke? Chen Guang, what's going on in your head? Have you lost your mind? Shi Lu took a step forward and glared at Chen Guang. She felt that there was a ball of fire burning in her chest. She had too much resentment to vent. Chen Guang shrugged. Didn't I just say that I'm taking this matter very seriously? I take this very seriously. All right, stop fooling around. I have to go look at the script. You guys hurry up and go through it. After saying that, he wanted to leave again. The old man didn't have the time and energy to care about everyone's feelings. Time was a little tight. Rather than wasting my breath here, I might as well go read the script. If I had to painstakingly explain myself to every single person who didn't believe in my abilities, then I would tire myself to death. Shi Lu was so angry that she laughed. She turned to look at Yang Shi. Senior, Director Yang, look at how sloppy he is. Back then, I only came here because of you. How dare he act like this? Yang Shi waved his hands. He didn't have the pretentious aura he had in the past 2 days. He forcefully defended himself. Shi Lu, don't get too worked up. The situation isn't that bad. Chen Guang is really the most talented actor I've ever seen. He's a natural actor. All right, stop fooling around. Shi Lu turned to look at the others and steeled her heart. Do you think I'm fooling around? I just don't want my dreams to be humiliated. He's insulting the performing arts. Forget it. I'm not acting anymore. After saying that, she turned to walk out. After taking 2 steps, Yin Fei hurriedly pulled her back. Shi Lu turned back to look at Chen Guang. She gritted her teeth. Isn't it just a penalty fee? I'll pay. Others might be afraid of you, Chen Guang, but I'm not. I used to have some hope in you, but now I feel like a joke. Goodbye. Lu broke free from Fei's grip and walked out. Xiao Lu, don't be like this. Fei still wanted to stop her. Lu struggled a bit more and finally managed to escape. It was less than 4 hours before she went on stage. One of the female leads, Lu, wanted to stop acting. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.